Man, I don't even know, dude. It's just one of those. Is it one of those weeks? I don't even know. But that, like, how is that an issue? Who's laying it? That's your issue? Then go over there. Wrestle it out. Go free that tiger, dude. You seen that movie where that boy ends up in a boat with the tiger? Go take your chances. Go take your chances with that cat. Because that cat, dude, a tiger will lick your skull open. A tiger could, I bet, open your skull just with the friction of his tongue against your bone. So you're out here being like a dang jackass. Speaking of a jackass, man, I'll tell you this little news story. The Great Donkey Escape. A lone donkey was found leading a herd of goats and sheep through residential streets of West Covina, California, after escaping from a property in a neighboring city on Thursday. Officers responded to the area of Francisquito and Valinda around 12:30 a.m. after receiving a call of a group of animals roaming a neighborhood, according to a post on the West Covina Police Department's Facebook page. Police discovered the donkey, goats, and sheep slipped through an unsecured gate from a property. Is this the script to Madagascar? I feel like I just read the script to Madagascar. But I would guess, honestly, let's think about this, that donkey was probably down there doing some of those sex shows. And everybody thinks about the lady, you know. But you want to go rescue something instead of people signing up to take a, you know, go down to Mexico. Just look in the donkey's eyes and see if they are okay with making love to these women. You'll know. The animal will give you a look. But obviously they're not. If this one's heading north, you know, this donkey probably running out of there. They should have checked, see if he had a couple condoms in his pocket, you know. Maybe it was that donkey. But things are going haywire right now, I guess. This episode's haywire. I don't even know what this episode's about. But I don't know what anything's about. Oh, man. Man, I've just been feeling, for some reason, I've just been feeling testy. I've been feeling testy. And I don't know why. You know, I don't know why. I've been trying to stay calm and stay chill. I got that new bed. That's a place I can rest. You know, I guess I'm just nervous. I guess I'm just nervous about, you know, some stuff going on. I tried out for the Tonight Show. I sent in a tape and I didn't get it. So that kind of, you know, just made me feel, I guess, I don't know if it made me feel like I'm not good enough as a comedian. It just made me feel, you know what it made me feel? It made me feel that somebody should start a Hollywood that creates entertainment and not one that is just in the business of Hollywood's just gotten so political, I feel like, you know, and not one that's just in the business of entertaining advertisers. You know, and a lot of people will say, well, look, you're not going to have the business if you don't have the advertisers. True. But I think that there's a great opportunity out there right now for somebody to make good entertainment, to bring it along, and people will get on board. Because some of the shit that's out there now, man, there's some good stuff, but damn, dude. I don't know if I've ever seen as many bad movies as I saw recently. Everyone, it just, come on. Oh, so anyway, I guess, yeah, it just made me feel, you know, it just made me mad. Because I know the people that do get on there, and I'm not, no discredit to them, but I know that I'm as good as some of those comedians. And it's just hard. They don't, you know, it seems like you have a Southern accent or you're from a certain place, and a lot of these Hollywood channels don't want to embrace you or give you an opportunity because you don't, just the sound of your voice makes them think that, you are not part of their world or not good enough to be in their world, or just your accent, or, even, and Hollywood pisses me off, man. You know, Hollywood's all about, like, you know, diversity and this and that now. 2 years ago, black people had to beg and boycott Hollywood to even get awards. Do you remember that? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. You know what I'm going to do right now then? If I'm not feeling good, I'm going to quit thinking about myself, and I'm going to start, let's check into some of these calls. You guys had some calls that came in, and I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys putting up with me today on this episode. It's just kind of, I guess just got a lot on the brain. You know, as always, if you have an issue, you can hit the hotline, 985-664-9503, and talk to us. Leave us a voicemail if you're struggling with something, and you believe that myself or someone else can offer some basic life suggestions, then we'd love to hear what's going on. Again, that number is 985-664-9503. All right, let's listen to this call came in. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. You brought up the government shutdown. It was real quick. You sort of said, good, you're happy that the government shut down. And
he's saying on last week's episode, I brought up the government shutdown. Yes, I did. Yep, and I said it was good. I was glad the government shut down. Now, if we could just get the news media to shut down, we might be able to get a little bit of peace. I was kind of joking. Onward.
You'll be fine. You got a job. There's nothing really wrong with that, I guess. It's just that I think you just didn't know sort of a big point about it. The reality is that the people that shut it down, the senators, the House, those people, they still get paid. They're still working that whole time. Their pay is actually permanently authorized by the U.S. Constitution, so it never stops.
Wow, I didn't know that. So government shutdown, the big dogs still get that feed. They still get that kibble and Benjamins. Onward.
What the people it does affect, those are people like me. It does stop for people like us, and we do stop getting paid. Like a little about me and how it affected me was I got a lot of bills, and basically out of nowhere I get put on what's called furlough. And I'm basically told, hey, you're not getting a paycheck. You're not working. You're going to have a job when it's over, but who knows when that's going to be. In 2013, it was like 3 weeks, I think, 2 weeks. For the DOD, it was a little less because the work I do is considered mission critical.
Okay, wow. So you're saying that as more of an boots on the ground employee that you don't get paid. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when government shut down, like what really occurs. I didn't think that a lot of people don't get paid. And I bet there was probably a moment for you when you're not getting paid where you're starting to, I bet it really, that's when you start feeling, I bet, like what the fuck is going on? What's going on in my country? Who's making these choices? I bet it's, like not judging you. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. And I think that's bullshit. I don't think that people that serve in our military or who are teachers, I don't think those people get paid enough at all. And I'm not grouping those together because, teachers can't throw grenades, but I'm just saying I've always thought that. But I bet there was a moment where once you realize that you're not getting paid, I bet that makes you perk up. That makes you perk up when somebody cuts those lifelines off. We know what we need to survive. That money when we need to take care of ourselves, to pay our bills, like you're talking about, makes you perk up. It makes you see, well, who's doing what, who's not helping, who's not passing the laws or signing the bills, or And it seems these days that a lot of it is ego with these political parties. That they're at the point where it's just ego. One of them doesn't want to help just because they personally don't want to seem helpful. And I think it's long been that way, but now it's just getting more and more evident. But I bet that you know what, and I'm not trying to find a silver lining in this for you, but I bet that's when you get alive, that you get awakened to the fact that what the fuck's really going on here? Because it's not until we're affected really that we spruce up. It's not until we're affected that we, it makes you see what's going on. That's when you get alert. And so we probably all need that. We probably all need a couple days where somebody cut, where our supply is cut and we got to look around. Because we get comfortable on the tit in America. And that's even just the tit if we're just working or what we're doing. No matter what we're doing, we get comfortable on the tit. But I didn't know that. And I didn't know that our congressmen and our senators still get paid. But I thank you for your service, man. You're braver than I am. That's for sure. I've always thought that you guys should get, your vote should count for a vote and a quarter or a vote and a half if you served in our country. I think you put more on the line. All right, in last episode, we had a young man call in, Jose Ochoa, who was calling, asking about, advice and questions as to if he wanted to drop out of college against one of his parents' wishes, his stepfather, I believe, or his father. And he wanted some suggestions from us on that. And I gave him a couple of ideas, and you guys also hit the hotline with some. So, Jose, here are a few for you, and just a few thoughts in general on that. He was worried about disappointing his father, who is first generation here in New America, and just a lot of what goes on with that, and what his life would look like. He wanted to start his own business, and here were some calls. Onward.
What's up, Theo? This is Jose in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay, and this is not the same Jose. This is a different Jose. And I could easily make a no way Jose joke here, but I'm not gonna. But I just sort of inversely did right there. But this is not the same Jose who called in with the problem. Onward.
And this is for Jose Ochoa from Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Jose, for calling in about Jose. Jose on first. Nope. Okay, more.
So I got a little story to tell. Man, I gotta say, college wasn't for me, man. I was honestly tired of school, sitting down at a damn desk. But I still took a crack at college. I went for a full semester back in 2016. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning, being around like-minded people, talking to the fine-ass girls. But I realized I was going to spend a lot of time, money, and effort there, and honestly, I just wasn't up for it at the time back in 2016. So I said, fuck it, and I didn't go back. A few months later, I did the unimaginable, and I enrolled myself in massage therapy school to be a licensed massage therapist.
Okay, so he was in college. He didn't like it that much. He liked the fine-ass girls, which, yeah, I feel you, bro. There's something about college where women go there because they want to learn. And that's how you get a woman with some facts. You got to lay some facts out in the street. And when they show up, you get out there and drop that bailamos on them. But here we go right here. So, but now he's in massage therapy. So you got in massage therapy, still catching with them ladies. Beautiful. Onward.
I kept in mind that this is going to be backup if anything goes to shit in my life. And it's, honestly, it's a well-paying job. Point is, if you haven't found shit you like, bro, don't worry about it. I said finish your degree for a backup if anything goes to shit. A good degree. And with time and life experience, you'll find your likes, dislikes, and talents. And by risking it, being able to not be lazy.
And there you go, right there. He's saying right there, take your time. He's saying get the degree, take your time, because you always have it as a backup. You can try something different. Take your time. You have time. You're going to slowly figure out your likes, dislikes, and talents. Just don't be lazy. I like that. Let's hear another one came in for you, Jose. Here we go.
Call for Mr. Ochoa, the 21 and a half. Okay, man, just get her done, finish college. I dropped out when I was 19, and I've regretted it for the past 9 years. And you just got to get in there and get her done, man. Otherwise, you're going to end up finding some other things to do with your time. You could hit the bottle or get into drugs, but just focus on a goal and just get her done. All right, good luck to you, Ochoa. Hope all is well.
Boom, there you go. And that's some sound advice right there. If you're, because there is one thing, man. If I go back in time, if somebody showed up right now and they had a big, an empty sack, an empty burlap sack, and I said, hey, mister, what's in that sack there? And they said, they said, this is a porthole back to time. That's the only time probably that I would crawl up in a man's sack right there. So there you go. Finishing it up, there's something to be said for it. Getting it done, because you have idle time. That's the devil's diving board, daddy. And the devil will jump right off of anything. and land in the back of your fucking ball bag. So there you go, right there. Let's take one more that came in. Here we go.
Yeah, Theo. Yeah, this is Justin. I'm calling from California.
Thanks for calling, Justin. Onward.
And I'm just responding to that Ochoa fellow about his decision about going to college or not. And I just want to say, like, I'm going through the same struggle right now. I'm trying to finish up. I'm almost done. You know, man, it's tough, you know, because, you know, these classes and stuff, there's a lot of bureaucracy and shit. You got to take these stupid classes you don't want to take. But, man, it's not really about the classes at the end of the day. It's just about meeting people, getting hang out with people. I meet so many people, man. I never want to hang out with the same, you know, people. Always hang out with different people. Expose myself, man. Because you never know who you meet. You know, the connections are real. People you meet are real. Good luck to you. But, man, you may be missing an opportunity of a lifetime, man.
And, you know, and that's a good point. Because you ask anybody if they could go back to college, who went to college, most people would say yes. Most people are going to say yes. I mean, college is a fun time. You don't get that freedom. You don't get to be that free as you do in college. You know, and I think that is something special that's, you know, about being in like a 4-year university and getting that experience of going and living on campus. You just don't get it again. You don't even get that time in your life when, because as you creep up in age, people just like, there's more of expectations on you from society. And you might start to feel that, Mr. Ochoa. But that's, you know, there's some great outlooks right there. You know, go ahead, get it done while you're there. If you already started, finish it up. I dropped out and regretted it. You know, it's not even about the college, it's about the connections. You know, if you have a business plan idea, now you might meet somebody in college who's got the other side of it, who's got the other side of your business plan. Because if there's anything that's tough to do is everything by yourself. You know, teamwork makes the dream work, always. You know, you want to meet up with people who are like-minded and like to get things done. Because you can't do it all. You know, you need somebody to help with everything. This podcast, I need people to help with Patreon to support. We got we have our new camera being started up this on Thursday's episode coming up this week. We got new lights. We're gonna be able to have a guest in soon. You know, I need an editor. I got an editor that's gonna come tonight and take off with this footage, and we'll be up to midnight on the phone or on Skype discussing it. You know, but he has to have that skill set. I can't do it all. You know, it's like there's a lot of teamwork. And you're going to need that, man, in a business idea a lot of times. Maybe you won't. But yeah, college is about the connections, the opportunity. And also, dude, you get that. I mean, they got a straight up buffet of you know, breasts or wiener out there if you want it. I mean, college is that time to cut up. I mean, out here in the real world, you can't even, dude, you can't do anything anymore. So if you're going to catch some extra, you know, if you're going to, you know, get into some straight up Special Olympics, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to just be skeeting over somebody's, you know, over that titty bar, you know, if you're just going to be, you know, you're going to be triple jumping some cock on some, you know, up and down some lady's, you know, leg or something, then you're going to want to do something. You're going to want to be in that college. Because you can't just recreate college somewhere. You can't walk into like a CVS or a Walgreens and just, you know, say, let's turn the fuck up and start drinking and, you know, doing shots out of people's asses. You can't do all that. You're going to need a real environment, and college, you know, provides that. Last week we asked on the episode, I asked if any Boston fans get tired of winning. You know, the Patriots are going to be in this final again. And it's, you know, I think everything loses its allure. And even victory probably does. And this young lady called in with some thoughts on that. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. My name is Jen. You were saying on this past podcast, you were saying that people are getting tired of Boston winning. And you said you heard a Patriots fan say that they are tired of seeing the Patriots win. Do we feel greedy? Yeah, it sometimes feels like that, I guess you could say.
Okay. Thank you for calling, Jen. Onward.
Okay. It doesn't, I bet it wouldn't feel as good if, say, if we saw the Saints win. You know, I'm 26, and the first time I saw Tom Brady win a Super Bowl, I was 11 years old or something like that. And we were going through some tough times, like as a family.
Mm-hmm. And Tom Brady's that man. And you know, he is 6'6". That's tall. I mean, that is tall. That's like 2 8-year-olds. Long ways. Onward.
And we're all living in this Super 8 motel, in this crappy Brockton motel, some ghetto, for like 2 months. And we saw them win that 2002 Super Bowl. I saw my dad cry his eyes out. And like at that moment, I realized like how important this was for him at this point in our lives, how important it was for football to bring us all together. You know, it did. It held our family together for such tough times.
And I respect that, and I appreciate that call, Jen. You know, that is a beautiful moment. I mean, there's nothing, you know, I mean, there's also nothing more Boston fan than, you know, a dad crying in a Super 8 motel with his children as Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl. That's like the most, you know, that's so real Boston, you know, not fancy Boston. I mean, that's fucking unbelievable. You know, leaving the room to get, you know, hit the ice machine by himself to have a few moments and come back in and celebrate, you know, crack open a thing of grape, you know, maybe grape soda or something for the kids or do something special, you know, and yeah, I mean, that's Jesus Christ. A Super 8 too, man. I don't even think they went out. They were not doing well. The last I checked, they were down to like a Super 6, and people were getting murdered at some of them. But I appreciate the call, and there is something, you know, and there is something beautiful about. There's something beautiful about that. There's something beautiful about fanhood and how it carries generations. I mean, one thing I remember about my own father was watching Saints games, and he got me into them. And sometimes you're a fan because someone else in your family was. It gives you a bridge there. It gives you some sort of a connection. You know, especially with fathers and sons. A lot of times there's not a ton, since men don't really relate to each other very emotionally. There's not a lot of opportunities for that emotional webbing between men and their sons. So the fact that they can share a sports team together is huge. And it really does... you know, there was nothing more that my grandfather wanted to see than the Cubs win. You know, and he used to blow cigarette smoke in my face and cheat at cards when we were children. He'd take a big hit off that Marlboro Red, or, you know, he'd be back there just blowing them Winstons, and he'd hit me with a big and when I couldn't see or my eyes were burning, he would cheat at cards. But he loved the Chicago Cubs. And for most of my life, I've loved them. You know, and when they won, I cried. I cried because I didn't really cry. You know, I cried some for me, but really I cried for him probably. You know, it just welled up in me that a lot of his life, this had been something he loved. And that's one thing that's kind of beautiful about humanity is sometimes, you know, sometimes we carry out the dreams or the moments of those who went before us. You know, and I guess that's kind of a neat thing where, I mean, that's kind of a neat rivet in who we are. It's like that's kind of an escape from our ego when we have moments like that. You know, when something special happens and it's, yeah, we're there, we're happy there to see it, but really, you know, I'm the eyes of my grandfather at that point. Or there's a little bit of him in my heart where I see, you know, I'm emoting, feeling emotion because he would be if he could be alive. And there's a moment where there is for you as a child in that Super 8, you know, where you see your father have feelings. And sports will do that. I guess it's a unique, I don't want to say it's a conduit for our feelings, but it's a unique quilt, you know, that we find our space in, and that connects a lot of people. And I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. Jesus Christ, bro. I don't know if I'm retarded or not. But sports does that sometimes. It's the catalyst for behavior. It's a catalyst for connectivity. It's a catalyst for, it gives us a chance to compete against someone else, or even to cheer our favorite competitors on. It's that, it's such a conduit for a lot of our emotions. It really, really is. But I appreciate that call, Jen. I appreciate that call. What else is going on? Oh, I got this call that came into me, and this is a question directed at me, and I'm going to get to this one. I know I'm just kind of jumping through calls here, guys. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just feeling weird today or what? I don't know. It's Sunday. I don't know. I don't feel that. I don't know. I mean, I feel like physically fine. I'm just not, just feeling whatever. So let's keep this going. Here we go.
What's going on, Theo? This is Andre calling from Boston. We had a question to ask you.
And this is Andre out of Boston hitting that hotline. Here we go, Dre.
I noticed on your last podcast you said you had a Latin fella doing your technical work or whatever.
Yeah, and that's Chris Perez out there. And we got a Latino gentleman here doing that. And he's a unique specimen. He's pretty shy, but we might have him on soon. Let's see. Onward.
Do you consider yourself a Latin fella considering you're half Nicaraguan? Because, I was born in America, and I'm Cuban and Chilean. My mother's from Chile, my dad's from Cuba.
Damn, you that Chilean Cuban, huh? Whoo, boy. Damn, you sound like a fancy order of fish at one of those nice restaurants, man. That Chilean Cuban, dude. Man, it sounds like if I owned you, I'd have you in a tank, And that reminds me, actually, my sister and her husband have a bass in a tank at their house, right? And it can't even turn around. It's just in there, moving a little bit, because it's gotten so big it can't barely, turn around in the tank, but it is in the tank. Onward, Andre, onward.
Say your father's from Nicaragua, so do you consider yourself Latin American? Because, you kind of come up with some stereotypical shit sometimes, and that shit's kind of ridiculous, bro. I don't know. Not that it matters, but I'm just curious.
Gang, bro. Bailar. You know what I'm saying? Do I consider myself Latin American? I'll tell you this, man. My father was straight up out that Nicaragua. And where my Nicars at? Where my real Nicars? And he lived there till he was 14, and he came over to New Orleans, or to America, United States of America. And he used to talk a lot in Spanish, man. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, because I was a child, And he was 70 when I was born. So by the time we got to really talking, he's about 80. So he coming in kind of with that 80-year-old perspective, slanging that Espanol around the house. And I didn't really get to feel him that much, and feel that vibe of him. He took me one time to, I think, Puerto Vallarta. One time he took me there to do something, and he might have been involved in some shady activity, actually, because he used to go back and forth between Central America and America, Estados Unidos. And I think he might have been involved in a little bit of shady shit, and I don't know what an 80-year-old man can get involved in that's shady. Probably not drug muling or anything like that, maybe running a little bit of small bags of coke or something, I don't know. But he was caught up in a little bit of the dark arts right there. And I knew even as a child that something was, a little bit wild going on. But did I feel it? No, because I didn't feel much from my father. I remember him, he told me, obviously, he told me that I was a survivor. He told me that I had the heart of a lesbian. He always told me that since I was young, because I had that vibrant heart, and I got hit by that Trans Am and survived it. And he told me, he told me that I'd be okay. I think he kind of started to kind of prepare me for the fact that he wasn't going to be around forever. He got me into doing stand-up comedy, really. When I think about it, my father used to be that guy. He used to go to, he was involved in some crazy shit, and he bought a Cutlass 88 off a couple of brothers, and it had speakers in the back. But he didn't mind the speakers because he was hard of hearing. So he'd be rolling through the town and through our neighborhood and stuff, with a couple of 12s in the back. Just, just killing them, bro, with some, whatever they were, 16s, I don't know what they were. But he couldn't hear it, but he had that bass. So he'd be listening to like NPR or all these political talk shows, Rush Limbaugh or something, and just Paul Harvey. You know, he had that. And one of the speakers I remember was blown out and some Chinese food got stuck in it. And he used to rattle, bro. It sounded like a huge fucking rattlesnake in the back of that trunk. And my dad had that, you know, and he had, you know, and he was still trying to make some money because him and my mother were always fighting. He had to make some money to survive. But did I feel, you know, I remember kids in our neighborhood would call me a spick all the time. Because, you know, my brother and I and my sisters had, you know, kind of a little bit of tan skin. And for our neighborhood, for our town, we had very tan skin. You know, it was very, I mean, you almost, after us was just black. You know, there wasn't a lot of middle grade going on. So, and you didn't have a lot of mixed people back then. You didn't have a lot of mulatto people. You didn't have a lot of black, white people. And some people get upset at these kind of terms. Whatever, man. You know what I'm talking about. We didn't have a lot of people that were mixed. It wasn't as popular then. You know, you didn't have people with a black and a white parent or a black and a, you know, and those were, we only had a couple of ethnicities, you know. So, you know, I didn't feel it. You know, my father would tell me stories a lot about growing up, you know, and he talked about they didn't have a lot of money growing up. He talked about the poverty that was in the country. You know, his family was down there. They worked in a church and they were building a church. And it might still be there. I'm not sure. I plan to go back sometimes. But I think what it did do, it inspired me to do a couple of things. You know, it's inspired me to try and learn Spanish. It's inspired me to, I'd like to do a special in Spanish one day to be able to perform, you know, for people that catch that Latino vibe, you know, for anybody that's ever been Latino or anybody that's ever, you know, been kidnapped and, you know, in, you know, Bolivia or somewhere, or, you know, one of those drug countries or something like that, or any, you know, a little bit of homage. So it makes me think like that. But, you know, I guess I've always felt maybe just a little bit obscure, a little bit different. I know that when I speak Spanish, that it really comes out of me naturally. You know, it comes out of me like it's supposed to be in me. You know, it's like when you open up a tube of toothpaste and you see toothpaste in the tube and it makes sense to you. That's how I feel about that Latin culture, that vibe, you know. But I remember my father doing some shady shit, man, when I was young. He'd be cooking fucking bananas in the front yard and shit like that. You know, and some of it, you don't know how much of it was Latino and how much of it was just the fact that he was in his 80s and he was starting to lose his mind and he had a griddle. So it's a lot of mixed stuff going on. But he, you know, he wrote for some newspapers down there, and, you know, I guess so it's in my blood. I feel like it's in my nature and it's in my nurture. I think it's in both of those things. So that's what's up, man. Yeah, I mean, I guess I do stay a little bit on the surface, maybe about some stereotypical stuff, but I would do some stuff for, you know, for another country, man. I'd do something for my fellow Nicaraguans. You know, I mean, I don't think I'd drug mule or anything. You know, I mean, honestly, I'd probably, if I put a couple grams up my bum, I'd probably hope they bust so I could get that free hit and it wouldn't count as relapsing, you know, or as, you know, as not being sober. So I might, you know, poke the bag with a needle or something before I put that, you know, that sweet white unicorn up my buttocks. But anyhow, it's a good question, man, and I appreciate it. It's a good question, and I appreciate it. What else, dude? We got another couple of good calls that came in. I want to let you guys first know, of course, about ZipRecruiter.com. Say you need somebody. And this ain't a dating site. This is a site for employers looking for quality employees. Because it's hard out there. You know what I'm saying? You can't just drive down the street and pick up a hitchhiker and, you know, and they get in the car and they can do all the things that you want them to be able to do. They can type, you know, 80 words per minute, and, you know, they know how to, you know, the different templates for different documents. It's not like the old days. You know, the old days, you pick up a hitchhiker, next thing you know, they have a skill. They built you a house, or they, you know, they've been watching your children for a couple years. But not anymore. Now, if you want quality employee, you need to use ZipRecruiter.com. Here's what it does. ZipRecruiter, you put what you need out there. ZipRecruiter sends it out to tons of websites who are looking for people. And also, it pulls in people who are looking for similar type work. It finds the best of those, the creme de la crop, and sends them right back to you. So you got that crop creme in your inbox right there. Suddenly, you're only looking through 10 or 12 people maybe to find who's the best, because the thousands of candidates have already been looked through by ZipRecruiter.com. And you can try ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. Use it or lose it. If you got a job, fill it. Try it for free. What do you got to lose, huh? What do you have to lose? A failing business? By making it better. That's all you got to lose. Try ZipRecruiter.com. All right, let's get into a little bit of stuff, man. Here we go. We got another call right here that came in, and I want to get to that now. Here we go.
I just got a little problem going on. My wife recently started drinking, like a couple weeks ago.
Okay, this gentleman called in, and I didn't get a name there, but his wife recently started drinking a couple weeks ago. More?
Her first real night of getting hammered drunk, she wasn't with me, she was with her cousin, and she ended up texting the boy that she used to hook up with.
So she just started drinking, and her first night of getting really drunk, she texted a boy she used to hook up with. More?
I kind of just thought, whatever. We'll just move on from here. She was drunk. But then last night on New Year's Eve, she got pretty drunk again at my brother's house. We ended up having sex in the house, like whatever.
Ooh, you had sex at your brother's house, dude? That's wild. That's so tricky. That's so goofy, dude, and silly. Okay, more?
That's what husbands and wives do. But then later, she ended up hooking up with my sister-in-law.
Wait, what is a sister-in-law? That is your brother's wife? No! Dude, if you and your brother end up banging or dating, dude, or touching each other aggressively, that is crazy, bro. And some places it's illegal. Some places it's not illegal. I think if you go on a boat and go off the coast a little bit, I think you have to be at least, 300 yards out or something. More?
After, my brother went to bed, she just went downstairs with my sister-in-law.
Literally, she did. Boom. Had to put that one in there. More?
And they ended up hooking up and filling each other's private parts, So...
Oh, yeah, dude. Touching that little thermostat, bruh. I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Woo! That cuda.
What's kind of bugging me is, isn't that something that every guy wants? Like, his wife to be into chicks, too, and him? But also, I feel like a little betrayed. I'm just wondering what everyone thinks I should do about the situation, or your thoughts on it. Like, should I be bugged? Should I just let it go? How do I handle this situation?
That's a good question. How would I handle the situation if my wife hooked up with my brother's wife? Well, dude, look, here's how this is going to end up. And this isn't advice, but this is just what's going to happen is it's going to end up that you guys are going to start expecting it. And you guys are going to end up probably having sex with each other's wives or jerking off while they're hooking up somewhere. And if you think there's a safe, and some people, it's not just going to end up where y'all are going to end up giggling about this during a game of Uno, or playing Foursquare together and laughing about it. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is this is going to escalate. And you're going to see these people a lot because it's your brother and his wife. Unless something happens to them or something happens to you guys. Unless there's a crime and you guys are victims of a crime or they are, you're going to continue to see them a lot. And this stuff's going to escalate. And next thing you know, dude, y'all going to be buying toys and it's going to get exciting, honestly. And I wish, my brother and his wife, they got a lot going on and I don't have a wife and it's, and I don't know if I don't want that for myself. My family couldn't handle that. But for you, it sounds like you're getting out there. And I don't know. I mean, if people have thoughts, you guys can hit the hotline, 985-664-9503, and we'll get to it. If you have thoughts for this gentleman, his wife is hooked up with his sister-in-law. That's wild, brother. That is wild. Let's take one more call here, and this is from Andrea, I see right here. Onward.
Hey, Theo. This is Andrea from Arizona. My question for you is...
Thanks for calling, Andrea. More?
at your age, not saying you're old or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but at your age, do you feel like you need to be married and have kids? Like, do you feel that type of pressure? And do you even want that? Just curious.
Oh, it's a good question. You know, I do want, most of the time, I want children. You know, most of the time. I do worry that I wouldn't be able to handle it. You know, I do worry that I would not be able to be faithful to my spouse. I do worry that I would be caught in a situation where I am, you know, I have a family and you know, and things don't work out with the wife, and then I have to let my kid down because his parents aren't married anymore. So I think those are a lot of things that, you know, and that's fear. A lot of that's just, you know, things that I fear. I mean, that really scares me. Some of those things. I love children. You know, I talked to my niece today, and she auditioned to be in the school play in Louisiana, and just hearing the excitement in her voice and what her life is like and how everything sounds like so big and how the little things are so important to her, and just hearing a little person talk to you, you know, there's a lot of like little joys there. You know, I you know, I want to be able to make sure that I'm healthy enough to make sure my kids have an emotionally stable environment. And that's and some people had called in a few weeks ago about some of that kind of stuff, about, you know, things you could instill in your son if you had a son. For a woman that was about to have her second kid, a lot of people called in and had some suggestions for her. But yeah, I would like it. You know, I would like it. I think I just have some fears. You know, and sometimes I still don't want to grow up. That's the hard part. You know, and I don't know how much of that, of me not wanting to grow up, is just my fear, like, reshaping itself and representing itself to me as that. You know, my fear of commitment. Like, I don't know, all of that could just be the same thing. It just keeps reshaping and showing up again. But it's tough, you know. It's tough. You know, I live in an environment out here in Los Angeles. There's not a lot of examples of that. So to go and do that and get healthy in that way, in a healthy relationship and healthy marriage, it's obtuse for what's happening out here. So I'm not saying that that's wrong or anything, but you have a lot of examples of that's not what's happening. But I think there's an ideal inside of me that I would love to have a loving wife that I am able to love and support. I'd like to have some children, you know, that feel connected to me, not to just, you know, that it seems like I'm connected, but really that I can connect with, and that they know that I care. And you know, and I'd like to be able to have a home where, you know, maybe do some foster family. I mean, I think about a lot of stuff like that, you know, and I know that I have enough, like, love inside of me for that kind of stuff. I just don't know sometimes if I can fend off my own dark arts, you know, and my own, you know, hold myself together enough to get through it. But I'm hopeful. You know, I'm hopeful, and I hope that if I stay in environments where I'm learning from other men and thinking about this kind of stuff and answering questions like this, that, you know, that my brain and heart will, you know, continue to get to know each other better and find a comfortable ground where they are sure and confident that they'll be able to get me through. Not just me, but my family through those times. You know, a lot of it's ego. You know, my ego is dangerous. My ego can be dangerous. And I got to get my self-worth a little bit better. You know, I mean, that's one of my problems sometimes, I feel like, you know, is that both of those things. And it's crazy to have one at the same time as the other. You know, to have like a you know, bit of egomania and an inferiority complex at the same time. You know, but that's sometimes where my brain is, man. It'll, you know, it's a little mixed up, but it's evening out. But I appreciate that question, and I appreciate the episode. I appreciate you guys being here. Everything. I feel like this episode was all over the place, but sometimes they are. What's going on with me? Not much else. Anything else I got to do? Just tell you guys thank you, and just let you guys know that I'll see you this Thursday. And also subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. When we get to 30,000 subscribers, I'm going to put out a new comedy clip that you guys haven't seen. And I'll probably also put it out one day if we don't get there, but I'd like to get there. Continue to hit the hotline if you have any thoughts about this episode, 985-664-9503. Stevie Starlight. And some people think like, well, who's Stevie Starlight? You know? It sounds like somebody, that, roller skates around and just, puts dirty peppermints into the mouths of adolescents or, middle-aged children. Who's Stevie Starlight? And the answer is, I don't fucking know who it is. Because that's the way the world works now. Somebody sends me an email. They said, hey, I'm Stevie Starlight, and this is my life's work. This is the magnum opus of my existence. This is this dirty, naughty hit. And that's Stevie Starlight right there. And that is called Come Over. Time slips away from you and me now. And that's the kind of song you hear if you're like, if you broke into somebody's house and you're trying on their clothes, that's what I feel like, It's never too late to come over. That's that Stevie Starlight. And Stevie Starlight sounds like the kind of dude you would never let babysit a kid. Obviously, yeah, he might, have an ad on the internet to be a babysitter, might also have ulterior motives. And that's just my, I'm just basing this solely on the name Stevie Starlight. Or he could be the fucking awesomest airplane pilot you ever get on a plane with. Imagine you get on an airplane, you get on, the guy has a fucking no shirt on, the pilot. 0 shirts. You think he has a shirt on? Well, apparently you're not getting a good look at him because he does not. He's got on chest hair. He's got on a Southwest. It says Southwest tattooed across his chest. Pierced nipples, both of them pierced. And each piercing has like a half of a heart hanging off of it. One half says BEFRI. The other half hanging off the other nipple says STENDS. He has a best friend's heart hanging half and half off each, slippery little, little nerve ending, little dirty little brown baby titty nipple. And that's Stevie Starlight. Imagine you get on that airplane and there he is. You're like, where are we going, Captain? And he just cranks it up. And you're going to fucking heaven. That's where you're going, dude. That's the only place this jet goes. Newark to heaven. But you know what this is, guys? This is that comeback music. This will make you stomp your foot, dude. This will make you fucking just put both your fingers into a baby's mouth and just take that little, whatever you gave them, some cream peaches or whatever you just fed them. It'll make you take it right back out of their mouth and just eat it right in front of them. Set me free. You can see, right now you can feel somebody just... And the baby is just like looking like, the baby's like, what? Yeah, baby, that's what happens in this universe. Welcome to the world. Because sometimes people will take the food right out of your mouth. And I'm just fired up today because I'm back, man. That's what I felt like when I saw this hit from Stevie Starlight, this Come Over, that's what I just... This is like Rocky. It's like that Rocky music, but for like a guy who sometimes questions his sexuality. And that's what I felt. I mean, it's just like, man, that's that Stevie Starlight. And I want to thank you guys for being here with me. Welcome to this past Thursday. And this is that comeback. You know, on Monday, I just felt rattled, man. I didn't feel good. You know, I was thinking about how I felt, and I guess I just felt a lot of fear, man. I felt like the episode, I don't know. I just didn't feel good, you know? I didn't feel that good. And I just felt disconnected. You know, I just felt disconnected. And I'd been doing everything that I kind of need to do to stay connected. Because for me, I have to try to follow a, organized set of, things each day to try and stay connected. And I'd been doing that, and I was feeling not connected. And that was, it was just getting a little bit scary to me. But I want to thank some of you guys that reached out and just said, hey, man, keep your head up. Everything's okay. And sometimes we just have to hear that. Sometimes we have to hear somebody say that to us. And so I appreciate it. That was some of you guys that did that. And I was just afraid. I was thinking about it. I guess I was just afraid. I had some fear that, we've been getting more listeners to the show. And we have some exciting plans coming up for this year and for the coming months. We're going to do a state of the podcast address on Monday's upcoming episode, where we're just going to kind of, we have some things that are, going to happen that we want to start to, unravel out into the universe. And I guess I was just feeling like a lot of pressure, and I just kind of lost my. You ever seen a baby deer? Sometimes if a baby deer gets born, they come out of their mom. First of all, a baby deer walks out backwards into the world. Do you know that? Some animals come out frontwards. Humans. Figures, dude. Idiot humans coming out frontwards. What an idiot. Because somebody can attack your head immediately. Say you're being born and there's a damn war going on, or there's a fire, and you stick your head out first. What an idiot. You're an idiot. And when I say you, I mean all of us, because that's how we do it. And that should show us right there that humans, we're not kind of just dumb a little. We go head first into the world. I mean, it's brave. It's adventurous. It's that pioneer spirit. But think about this. It's a place you've never been. Because you've never been anywhere. Because you're brand new into the universe as far as we know. And you're going to stick your head out there first? What a damn muppet. What a greased up damn snicker-sniffing muppet. It's crazy. And that's why breech birthers, I trust a breech birther more often. And I wish that if we should all have to wear a little name tag that says if we were breech or head first. Because while head first, it's brave and everything, also, way idiot. Yeah, never been to the universe before, I'm just going to stick my head out first. Psh. Well, that's nuts. So breech birthers, at least they're like, I'm going to put a toe into the universe and see how it feels. Maybe I'll put 2 feet into the universe. Way more. And if a breech birth, if it's a fire, if it's a war, or if somebody lops their legs off, you still got the rest of your body. You can still get born and go live out in the world in a wheelchair or on a skateboard. If you don't have any legs, sometimes when people don't have legs, you can see them on the internet. It's a lot of some men in India, even they duct tape them to a skateboard, and that's their body, is the skateboard, They still have their chest and their genitalia and hips. But anyhow, that's kind of, I was just fearful. I was just fearful. I was just scared, I think just some fear that there's a lot going on, and that, and I was just going to mess up, that I just lost my confidence. I lost my footing for a second. And going back to what I was talking about, a baby deer, They come in, they back into the universe. Sometimes I'll stay up at night watching animals be born on the internet. And I was watching funerals for a while, but my therapist said I should quit watching funerals because it's depressing. And I'll say this, dude, honestly, a lot of the funerals on the internet, extremely long. Like most of them are Middle Eastern. I'm talking, you can watch there's funerals on the internet that are 6 hours long. Not very bizarre. Exciting, but also bizarre. But you can watch babies be born. But baby deers, they back into the universe. But when they get here, their legs are so shaky. Their legs are just long, they're almost just like marshmallow with hoofs on the end. Imagine trying to stand up on marshmallow. I mean, it's tough. It's almost, it's, and sometimes if you do a lot of drugs or something, you can have that similar experience. But that's how baby deers are, and their legs shake, and that's how I felt. I just felt shaky. I felt like my legs and my neck and everything was just marshmallow. And I just felt like I didn't want to, I don't know. I just didn't feel okay. And sometimes you're going to have days like that. And so that's just kind of what was going on. And I'm not apologizing. I'm not complaining. I just was trying to, the past few days, I was just trying to think about what was going on. And sometimes the universe is going to be, it's going to be this cool little crystal ball that I'm going to play with and look at. And sometimes the universe is going to be a damn cannonball that's going to rip right by and just rip my sister's tits off, Or it's going to just come steaming fast right through my stepdaddy's legs and just blast his nuts into the next nutosphere. Sometimes that kind of stuff's going to happen. And that's what was going on. So I just had some fear, man. I had some fear of just failure, I guess. I had some fear of, I don't know, just everything. I had some fear. So that's what was going on with me. And today I'm feeling better. I've done some things. I went for a run. I'm just staying confident. I'm coming back, man. I'm Stevie fucking Starlight, dude. I'm not Billy Blackhole. Dude. Where I'm just falling into my own gravity, and I'm just gonna go hide in my shirt like a Punxsutawney Phil that's lazy and don't want to get out there and do his work and see what his fucking shadow's gonna do. I'm not gonna be like that. I'm going to be like Stevie Starlight, and I'm going to fucking, when my mom's at work, I'm going to go in her room, and I'm going to get her nightgown out of the fucking closet, and I'm going to get in front of the mirror, and I'm going to... I'm going to be human. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you guys for joining me, man. It's Thursday. What's going on? What's going on in the universe? I'm here. You know that. You're here. I appreciate you guys for joining me. And I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank everybody on YouTube for subscribing. We're up to 25,000 subscribers. When we get to 30,000, I'm going to put out some new comedy content for you guys. We have the studio. We got some updates coming up. And I'll announce all that stuff next week, some cool stuff. But thank you guys for being here. What's been going on with me, man? What's been going on in the world? They had the State of the Union address. I think what gets me in watching this and in watching the State of the Union address and just about a lot of the politics these days, and is that it seems like I don't think Trump is a neat guy, I don't think he's a great leader. I don't think he embodies, I don't think he gets people. I think he is a shiesty businessman. But with all those things said, I don't want America to fail just... It seems like there's a lot of people out there that want Trump to fail and want our America to suffer so that they can prove their point or so that they can be right. And that to me, that's where I don't understand what's going on. That doesn't seem right to me. Like, I hope that he succeeds. I hope that there's success for everyone. I hope that there's, I hope that they are able to figure things out and they get it right, and that things change. And I'm not even a politico. I'm not even a fan of politics. But if I don't think that, if I'm not hopeful, then who am I? Like, then what am I doing here? Then how do I even call myself an American if I'm not hopeful for better things in our country? Because it's like, even if good news comes out, if something positive happens, it's like there's so much, it's still negative stuff on the news. It's still like, there's always like a negative connotation with it. Like, why can't we just be excited about something? Like black unemployment, they said, and there's caveats to this, I guess, but that black unemployment was at an all-time low. And you know what? I don't know. I didn't look into the stats of that. I didn't look into it. But I'll say this, in my life, I've never even seen that on a ticker. I've never even heard that in the zeitgeist of what's going on. I've never even heard that uttered in the world. And so to have that be something that's said, that's amazing. I mean, when I was growing up, the only black people that had money were the Dallas Cowboys and people on that movie Coming to America. Those are the only wealthy black people that you would see. And I don't mean that as a shun or anything like that. I'm talking, that is the facts. And those are the facts from my eyes. So those are just my facts. When I was growing up, there wasn't a rich black man in my town. I remember my mother, for a while, dated a man who was black and Jewish. And he was, and I guess one of his parents might have been white, or one of his parents, I guess, was Jewish and white, and then one of his parents was black. And he was the closest thing I'd seen to a wealthy black man. But and he was from New Orleans. But I didn't, it wasn't something that was going on. But now, dude, you go to Atlanta 25 years ago, when you go to Atlanta now, dude, you go walk through the Lenox Mall in Atlanta and you're white, you will, well, anyway, I felt like the poorest person in town. There's a lot of black wealth. There's a lot of black opportunity. And I'm not saying I've had nothing to do with this. But I'm not saying that this isn't something that I've seen in my lifetime, and so this isn't, it's something that is exciting. It's something that is cool to see. It's something where you can see that change can happen. So if I hear a stat like that, or if I hear something that's positive, I'm still going to be hopeful for America. Whereas I feel like there's people out there that even if the current political regime solved say if they cured cancer, that there's people out there that would be like, nah. Like they're just, and at that point it makes me wonder, if I'm thinking that way, is it more about me? Like, what's wrong with me if I'm stuck on that? I don't, because then it's not like I really am interested in the world being a certain way. I'm interested in the world becoming a certain way, the way that I want it to become that way. Or something like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just, I just don't understand. There's so many people that just don't even seem hopeful. They're like, love, 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 love. But then, everything on television is there's just so much hate. It's like, how are you going to get to love if all you're doing is hating all the time? It's the same thing that that makes you like, I don't like people that hate so much, and so many, there's, read so many articles and so much anti-USA, anti-American, anti-Trump sentiment. And I get it. Like, Trump is not easily likable at all. But if you're sitting there hating him, and then also hating and not wanting any success for the next few years that he's in office or whatever, then what does that mean about you? Or what does that mean if that's me? What does that mean about me? Like, is it more about what I want, or is it more about what's, that things could actually get better? And how do I get to, and if all I do is hate something, where's my love? There was, growing up, there was so many, like, it was tough. I remember there was, it was tough growing up in a community where there was so much poverty in the black community, where they had just generations of lack of education, generations of lack of desire, generations of lack of opportunity. And then it got to the point where, the kids some of the kids that I would grow up with, they just had nothing. They didn't have anything inside of them. And I'm not saying this to make fun of them or to point fingers at them. I'm saying this because, like, there would be instances where, I would get jumped by black kids, or I would get, threatened, or I had a girlfriend that used to get, molested, if you will, by, a tougher black guy on the school bus. And at the time, like, I didn't understand a lot of that stuff. I didn't understand a lot of, where some of these kids were in the history of time and in their lives. But I could still, even though I was angry, over time, I could understand what was going on. I could understand that, sure, even though, some of this behavior is out there, and some of it, of course, is whoever's fault it is, the actual person doing the behavior, it's their fault. There's also an element over time that is built into their world, or a lack of elements that are built into some of these kids' lives that makes them be able to function and be comfortable in society, and therefore, that's why sometimes they would act out and behave the way they did. And I had to understand that, and I was still hopeful for these kids and for these communities. Because even though maybe some of my life wasn't as bad, we were still right there, in the same neighborhoods and the same school bus and the same circle. And even though I hated some of their behavior, I hated being threatened, and, I hated sometimes how mean some of these kids were. And there were white kids that were too. I'm not saying that it was just one way, but some of these kids, there were some black kids that were so just angry, and so mean. But I was still hopeful, even if I didn't like them. I still tried to be, I think, understanding where I could, and hopeful that things would get better. And I'm not comparing that to what's going on now. I'm just trying to find a correlation in my life where even if I don't like something, for me to then not want that, you know, or like a person or a group, for me to not want them to succeed just to prove my point or to prove or to justify my angst or my anger, that is something is wrong with me then. That is because that's selfish. You know, that's selfish. And it doesn't take away maybe some of the, you know, the anger that I have towards some of the kids that were, you know, violent towards me when I was young, or that beat me up, or that made me feel less than, or threatened me, or, you know, did some things that were vile that I had to be around. But it does, you know, but those are instances that I would then take up with, you know, with those, I guess, with those specific people. You know, but it's, I don't know, man. My brain's just getting a little bit lost. But sometimes, yeah, I just don't like some of the energy that's out there where it's not about getting better as a group. And there's not even a look towards that horizon. There's just I want to see some failure so that I can be right. Because it's not for the betterment of everyone then. We're not going to, we can't get better like that as a group, I don't think. You know, and I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to think and be alive at the same time, and trying to feel and talk at the same time, which most of my life has been really tough for me to do. Just because sometimes over the years, I just don't even know how I was feeling, you know, and I think I was also just been afraid sometimes to talk. You know, I always did humor or told jokes and stuff like that, and that sort of behavior, because it was the only language that I really, I don't know, it's the only language really that I knew. You know, and sometimes I get scared, I think, and that's where I think a lot of my fear came in on the last episode, and it probably will again, where I just get scared. I just get scared, you know, being brave enough to say what is okay for me and what my life is and what's going on with me, and being brave enough to tell my story. You know, and nothing, honestly, dude, nothing has made me feel like I moved out here to Los Angeles to be more free, you know? I mean, I love Louisiana. I love my home state. I love, you know, that small town vibe. I love a sense of community. That a sense of community saved me from who knows what. Saved me from a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that lended their heart and their, you know, their concern and their home even to make me feel okay. But I get out here to Los Angeles, and sometimes I can't even tell. I feel like my story doesn't even exist. You know, because suddenly there's just this, you know, ghost in the air. There's this thing where people they don't want to look at the big picture. They want to be right. And some guy out here who, some, you know, white kid who is, you know, is trying not to be racist and trying not to be a fucking, trying not to be a pervert for sure. I'm always trying that. I mean, everybody knows I'm trying not to jerk off locally or even when I'm out of town. But, you know, it's like, just because I don't sound and look just like everybody who's just on this, you know, this cookie cutter plate, that I'm not accepted, you know, or that immediately people just look and judge. Even though Hollywood's always about like, oh, love, you know, love, acceptance. Yeah, well, try walking into a conversation out here with a gender neutral haircut and a Southern accent, and see how much people are just like, oh, immediately don't say this guy's this way or this guy's that way. You know, I've never honestly felt more oppressed in my life. And I grew up in apparently one of the most, racist environments of the world. You know, but the oppression I felt heaviest in my life here in Los Angeles. You know, they just try to beat at, it's just frustrating. Anyway, I don't want to take us down that path, man. This isn't about me. But I appreciate you guys being here with me. There's been a lot of talk recently, a lot of people asking me on social media about Tom Segura. And he is a fellow comedian, and he's a very unique man. And he has a great podcast called Your Mom's House. And he made fun of Louisiana. He was making fun of Louisiana in one of his comedic sets. And he was talking about Louisiana and build a wall around it. And he talked about, he used the word retarded. And there's just been an uproar about it. And a lot of people asking me how I feel. And you know what's funny is before I even knew that this was on television where people could watch it, or on Netflix where people could watch it, I heard Tom do that bit. I heard Tom do that set at the Comedy Store a couple of months ago, and I'm sitting in the back, and dude, my first feeling was that I was offended. I'm like, man, what the fuck, dude? You're gonna make fun of Louisiana? You know, why don't you make fun of one of these, one of these show-offs, one of these know-it-all places? You know, why don't you make fun of a Los Angeles or a New York, or a California or New York? Make fun of a know-it-all kind of place. I'm like, you're picking the lowest hanging fruit there, Tomcat. And then I'm watching, I'm like, and then I realized I have a part in my Netflix special. There's a bit where I make fun of Mississippi, which is an even easier place to make fun of. So that's when I realized, you know what? Like, this is just jokes. Even though it might first hit me a little bit uncomfortable because that's my home state, that these are just jokes. I mean, I could go, I could raise rebuttal up forever. Louisiana Purchase, one of the greatest deals ever in the universe. We did that. You're welcome. Okay? Bought most of America for 10 cents an acre. Boomtown. I could say that. I could say that, one of the pseudo birthplaces of jazz. I could say that we've had, a lot of amazing people come out of Louisiana. I could say, some of the greatest recipes. Dude, come on. They got some trout. They have some trout down there that if you eat it, that one of your deceased grandparents could probably get that taste in their mouth, even in their skeleton wherever they're laying. They could get that taste in their mouth. And so that's when I realized, you know what? I could rebuttal, but the thing is that it's jokes. And that's Tom's take on it. And he said, build a wall around Louisiana. And so that's his take. And that's it. And I just have to, I got to realize some things are just jokes. Especially because if I start to question, what, I can say if I think it's funny or not. But if I start to question what he should be able to joke about, it's like, come on. And especially in the South, we should be able to take a joke. There's a lot of places that cannot take jokes. But I don't think that the South is one of them. And Tom has to go down there and perform. And I'm not going to, people are asking if I'm going to be his security guard down there, if I'm going to be down there opening up. Not that I know of. But good. And I wish Tom the best down there. I wish him the best. A lot of famous people have been killed. And even if somebody shoots him up, a lot of famous people have been killed in Louisiana. A lot, man. Huey P. Long, Pistol Pete Maravich, Steven Seagal, Jim Croce, Larry Sweeney. There you go. So, it's anybody's ball game down there, Tomcat. Good luck. Good luck. And but I'm not. I can't be offended. So I have to. I think we're almost getting in living out in Los Angeles, and even just being in this world today. It's that offensive that it's becoming that culture. It even infects me because I wouldn't usually get offended, but my first thought was to be offended. And I think my reasoning was I just feel like that the South and that the Midwest, these places have been picked on enough. You know? But then when I look at my own work, even though I'm from one of these places, here I am picking on it. So it just, you know, at that point I just got to realize that Tom's just telling jokes. And then it made me think, well, maybe I should find a braver place to make fun of. I mean, at least you picked Louisiana. I picked Mississippi, which is even, you know, which usually it's like you go down, like every state makes fun of another state. Like, oh, yeah, well, North Carolina's like, oh, well, you think we're shitty? What about South Carolina? And South Carolina's like, oh, well, you think we're shitty? What about Kentucky? And Kentucky's like, oh, well, you think we're shitty? What about Alabama? And it keeps going. But then you get to Mississippi, and Mississippi's like, oh, you think we're shitty? Well, and they don't know because there's no other states left. But then also you go to Mississippi, man, and you find some people that you got a lot more weight. You go to some of these you go to some of these southern and midwestern states, man, you have so much more good-heartedness. You have so much more people actually living their lives and getting to know each other, you know. I mean, Los Angeles, we sit in traffic. Everybody acts like it's so diverse out here. Like, yeah, there's a lot of different types of people, but it's not like they interact all the time. Everybody's, for the most part, seems to be in traffic, driving to their own little insular universe. Like, there's a lot of, there's little neighborhoods where everybody's kind of very similar. You know, it's just like then we go into our homes and talk about how, and people talk about how diverse and how loving they are. But I've known my neighbors way less when I've lived in Los Angeles than I have any other place that I've lived in America. And that's true. I've known my neighbors more in other places, including New York City, South Carolina, New Orleans, Arizona. I knew my neighbors more in those places than I have living here and I've been here for probably about 13 or 14 years. Now, I'm not saying there's not great things about California. You know, I'm not saying there's not great things about Los Angeles. But as a place where there's a strong sense of community, anybody who tells you that there is, I think, is not realistic. I think it's very me. Everything is very me out here. And I don't even know why sometimes. I don't even know why I feel that way or why it is that way. You know, I actually met a man on the street earlier, and this was like the first time I said, yeah, hey, man, I live right down the street at this address, and if you ever need anything, if you and your wife ever need anything or whatever, you know, I'm down the street. And I just realized this was just tonight when I went on this run. I was like, man, I've never even said that shit to anybody before. So I don't know. I mean, the only time I had a neighbor at one of my old places, and he had husbands or men. He, preferred the pleasure of men. And they used to get up there, and sometimes, dude, I'd be laying in bed at night listening to these men make love kind of in the distance. And damn, sometimes it was, it didn't make me erect or anything like that, but it was probably the most I ever even knew my neighbors, really, in a weird way. It's probably the closest that I got to knowing any of my neighbors was sometimes listening to this man who used to make soap. He also made soap. He was a soapsman or a sudsman. I don't even know. I could look it up on my internet's having trouble. I would listen to him, and he had a couple of different partners, I think, but that's his shit, dude. That's his life, but that's weird that was kind of the closest thing I felt to neighborly association was listening to a couple fellas moving furniture, if you will, a couple of lunch hunters, people hunting, just getting into the dark arts out there. All right, let's get into a little more stuff here. Let's get into a follow-up from some of the stuff that happened last week. You guys hit some calls, and I really appreciate it. I'm not going to let you know a bunch of dates, but I will let you know if you look on YouTube. A, I'll ask you to subscribe, please. And B, I'll let you know I got this Onward t-shirt. And they got these Onward shirts now at theovon.com/store, S-T-O-R-E, where you can support the podcast. And that is what is going on. I'll let you know, I'll be in Portland next weekend at Harvey's. And we're going to go meet up with the Hamster Rancher. So they had a man that called in a while back, and he ranches hamps. And this gentleman, we had a conversation with him the other night on the telephone, and he's still out there working with them, and he was feeding a couple of them, and by bottle, not breast. And that's, and that's the way to do it, I guess, if you're feeding a big group, and especially if you're not related to them, if you're a man. But he was doing that, and he was being out there and being regular with these animals, and so we're going to go meet up with him and get out and see a lot of these beautiful hamsters. And so I'm very excited about that. So I'm looking forward to that next week. But we had some calls that came in from you guys, and these are going to be brought to you by Gray Block Pizza. And Gray Block Pizza, that's over there, 1811 Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles. And I'm going to read you one of the different type of pizza they have right now. And this pizza called the Neve Bianco. The Neve Bianco. And that's red onion, fresh sliced tomato, mozzarella, ricotta cheese with garlic basil on a garlic pesto sauce. And that's that Neve Bianco, 1811 Pico Boulevard, Los Angeles. Go to Gray Block, get that hit up. And we're so grateful to them and happy to just the support that they've given. Also, grateful to you guys over at the Patreon. And links to Gray Block and Patreon are going to be in the comments. You can grab those and check them out and see what they're doing. We had a guy call in last week, and his wife had been drinking, and she'd been getting that liquor. And when a woman gets a liquor in her, and look, I'm a feminist as they come. You want to see a lady out there doing something wild? Let's see it. You want to see a lady? I mean, look, I think ladies were doing just fine. They got the Statue of Liberty. What else, dude? They got, okay, so maybe we do need a little bit more. We might need, if you want to put a couple ladies in the NFL, then do it. But I don't see that as equality. I just see that as forcing women into the NFL. But they had, a man called in and said his wife was out there drinking, doing liquor and having liquor inside of her. She just started drinking, and she had recently hooked up with his brother's wife. It was this gentleman that called.
I just got a little problem going on. My wife recently started drinking, like a couple weeks ago. Her first real night of getting hammered drunk, she wasn't with me. She was with her cousin, and she ended up texting the boy that she used to hook up with.
Yeah, and that's the caller. And then he goes on to say that his wife hooked up with his sister-in-law. And look, I mean, I've seen some things on the internet, and I've been out there on some of them, crazy websites where you hear them blowjobs going on, and some of them sites have good blowjobs on them. Sound like somebody's washing a car, or putting a sponge in a bucket. One of them real hearty blowjobs, Seemed like somebody been working their neck out before they even show up to do some work on that cock. But this guy have family. This family getting involved now, and he said that what was going on. His wife out there, being wild and being sentimental, and they'd been at his brother's house, and the wife had snuck out and made woman love, which I still don't know how they do it really, because I've even drawn some pictures and it doesn't, some parts of it don't add up. And made some beautiful woman love though, but I do enjoy watching it. But I'm trying not to right now. But had made some woman love, and so here's some of you guys' responses. Let's get into it.
Hey, this is Ryan from PA. I'm just calling in response to the guy who his wife was doing some finagling with his sister-in-law, and I have a similar experience. My ex, she hooked up with a local lesbian once behind my back. Quite frankly, that enraged me, because not only it just seemed like a breach of trust, and I'm not really into to lesbians and stuff like that. So it didn't really excite me. So I think it's normal to be, upset by that. But basically, you should just ask her if it'd be okay if you did something with someone else, even another guy, if that'd be all right with her. And if it's not, then obviously the scales are a little off, and that's probably unhealthy for your relationship.
Wow. Okay, and I appreciate that call, Ryan. Thank you for calling in. There was a lot right there in Ryan's call, because he's saying that this happened to him, and you could tell a little bit in his voice that there was still a little, probably still a little bit of resentment there towards his wife. And I'm guesstimating, Ryan. I could be wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm not trying to judge you. I appreciate your call, man. It's you're trying to help out this other gentleman, and that's we're grateful for that. But your wife hooked up with a local lesbian. Now that's the thing. Now sometimes some lesbian women will even seek out a small community where there are not a lot of lesbian women, because then they become that maverick. They become that sweet treat in the distance. Because they have, they probably have a lot of lesbians. They got that, they have nice etiquette, nice things going on. They got, they're active in the community, and so then they're meeting women. And then if a woman has trouble with her man, next thing you know, who can she go talk to? Who's always available? That lesbian, that local lesbian. And so next thing you know, you're over by that local lesbian's house, and that's a beautiful little trap they got going on. Now, as a man, I'm envious of lesbians, because they can set up the same old little trap to meet ladies that we used to set up, but our trap's been figured out. I can't just talk to a guy's wife and have it seem like I'm not up to no good. Or a man can't do that, but a local lesbian can do that. They can be like, oh, come over, let's do some, I got this new full body crossword, or I got this, new juggling kit. Let's learn how to juggle, or let's do something. Let's bake, let's bake these, I'm with her cookies. And next thing you know, they're falling in love, these two women. And so obviously, Ryan said that his wife, had made out with a local lesbian, and that even though it was a woman, that challenged his comfort, and he thinks that compromised his confidence in the relationship, And so he is recommending to you that you ask her if you can do the same thing. But now here's the problem. If a man goes and does the same thing, then the man is out there and he's involved with other men. And that's fine, but it's, for some reason, there's still this thing where it's not as, what is that? Excuse me, what is that thing? Because, if a woman goes out and about and is I don't know if they call that a lipstick lesbian, but if your wife goes out and about and makes out with another woman, it doesn't seem as taboo as if your husband goes out and just makes out with another man. Is it because that trying, or a woman being a lesbian is more, is it looked at easier? Is it just different? Is it because the sexual act, if a man goes out with if a woman's husband were to go out and be with another man, that sexual act is more, it's more aggressive? Is that what makes it seem more taboo? Because Ryan here is telling this man, well, ask your wife if you can go be with another man, if you can go do the same thing. And if she says no, then hold her accountable, because what she's doing isn't fair. But I'm going to say, Ryan, I think it's, that's good advice. But then if he goes out and does that, he has to go. What if she says yes? Now he has to go be with another man just to get even with his wife. So now he's out there blowing dudes, and just frisking out, and some dudes, in some fella's kitchen or whatever, or by candlelight, watching old episodes of Magnum P.I. or, who knows, and he doesn't even want to be. He's just trying to get even with his wife. That can be a little bit scary. That can be a little bit scary, dude. So that's another option. You can get out there and philander with other men locally in order to make things even with your wife. See how she feels. And maybe that's not a bad idea. Bring home a beautiful little Fauntleroy gentleman. Next time you and your wife are about to sit down to dinner, there's a little at the door. And who's that? Oh, that's just my buddy Randall. Spelled Randle. And next thing you know, Randall comes in, and he's being wild, and he's got a new necklace or something. And next thing you know, all of you guys are, it's Taco Tuesday. But Randall's over there snacking on some taquitos and trying to send your wife a message. Snacking on some thick taquitos and trying to send your wife a message. Maybe that's how you do it. Maybe that's how you show her, how it would feel if the page is returned. Let's take another call here. Here we go.
Theo Vaughn, what's this trip you got me on? What's up, brother? My name is Joe. I got some advice for this fella that his wife is getting into the dark arts via the way of the alcohol. I guess this is the first time she started drinking. And she was straight-laced before this happened, and then just took a few drinks of alcohol. Now this behavior has come about. I would suggest that she probably stop, man, because that's a slippery slope, man. I can see her in 6 months down in Tijuana getting double-dicked by two dudes while snorting coke out of a hooker's ass or something. You know what I mean?
Woo! And that's Singing Joe right there. And Singing Joe, that's a deep, that's a long, so you're saying if she has a little bit of liquor, and next thing you know, she's texting ex-boyfriends. That's the part that gets me even more, is that she's texting a high school boyfriend. You guys are married, she's texting a high school boyfriend. Dude, I did a comedy show one night, and a gal that I dated in high school came, and she was with her husband, and she got drunk, and when they were leaving, she was like reaching for me. And I'm no catch. First of all, that was my first thought. But my second thought was, this is awkward. Because I felt awkward for the guy. And it was only because of the alcohol. So yeah, alcohol can have a wild effect. It can be a slippery slope. Yeah, it's like, where does this end? If first she's texting her exes, and then next thing you know, she's, gallivanting with local lesbians, then what? What's the next level? She's out there, she's, buying kilos, or she's drug muling for, hardcore lesbians. She's doing skateboarding. I don't know. Who knows, man? A lot of possibilities. But yeah, I don't know if she could go that far where she can end up down in Tijuana. That seems a bit much, Joe. So I'm no cartographer, but I think that, there's other more local things could occur before she ends up down there caught up like that. You made it sound like she's really, really caught up, and I must play one more time what you said.
Slippery slope, man. I can see her in 6 months down in Tijuana getting double-dicked by two dudes while snorting coke out of a hooker's ass or something.
Yeah, Joe, and that is really, I don't think that's not what I see. And I'm no crystal baller, but that's not what I see. Let's get another call. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, this is Nathan in Anchorage, Alaska. Say, I'm calling about the gentleman whose wife has just started drinking. He said he was confused if he's supposed to like, girl-on-girl action. Most guys do. Well, first off, guys like girl-on-girl action when they are involved.
That's true. Because then all you're thinking about is being left out. It's like looking at pictures of your friends at the beach. Being at the beach is cool. Looking at pictures of your friends at the beach, not as cool. But thanks for calling from Alaska, man. I like Alaska, and I like callers from Alaska because Alaskans have time to think. And Nathan from Alaska, sometimes it's nighttime up there. It's nighttime up there for like 4 months. That's crazy. If you don't think if you have a boogeyman under your bed, you're dead. You have to. 4 months, there's no way that the dark arts don't really creep up over the horizon. Nighttime. 4 months? That's got the devil signature all over the bottom of it. Let's hear more, Nathan.
If he sitting on the sidelines watching his wife hook up with other chicks, maybe it's not quite as fun. Sounds like her drinking has really escalated. She just started drinking. Maybe show her the ropes a little bit. You know, you don't want to do 15 Jaeger bombs in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that could be it. You know, that's a way to do it, is to try drinking together. I am concerned with why she just started drinking. You know, maybe she's just getting a little bit of her college out. You know, of her. You know, did she miss that experience, and that's what she's getting into. You know, and there's like some adult fun camps that you guys could go to. I know it's like a crazy idea maybe, but there's like these summer camps you can find online for adults. It's like 3 or 4 days. You fly in, and it's like a big party where everybody gets to have fun. There might be some swinging, you know, swingers going on. I'm not sure, but I've seen some photos, and some of the people on there look a little bit like they'd be into swinging. But that could be it. You know, that's an option. You know, but if she's getting involved in, you know, if already she's reaching out, you know, like, I mean, dating your brother's wife, it's that what's next? You know, she's snuggling, you know, she's sneaking into your grandmother's bed. Like, what is next, man? You know, she's doing, you know, hospice care for your grandmother, but taking things to another level. Like, what's next? So that's, you might want to look into that. You might want to look into that. But yeah, I'd stay cognizant of what's going on. You know, because that's a lot. You got a lot going on right there. You know, but I would communicate with her how you feel, so that if she, you know, if certain behaviors occur or continue to occur, and she knows how you feel, then at least you're going to have, in the court of emotion, when you guys discuss stuff, your case is going to have, a lot of your case will already have been presented along the way. You know, so trying to communicate, I think, could be helpful there. But I don't know. Yeah, but she started, found that local lesbianism, man. I remember they had a couple ladies in our town, furniture movers. And these were some early lesbians. Back in the day, a lot of lesbians were in the furniture moving business. And antiquing. And they moved it. I remember ordering a love seat off the internet, and they brought it, and not the internet, off the phone. That's when you called a number on the television, and they brought it over, and they ended up moving into our neighborhood. They bought some drugs and moved into our neighborhood. And they made love to a couple people's mothers over about the next decade, probably 6 to 8 people's mothers. All right. But that's all the responses to the calls from last week. If you have a question, a concern, something that's going on in your life, you can hit the hotline, 985-664-9503. We're going to get into just a couple more calls that came in that were not related to that wife fiasco that's going on up there. Let's get into one of those right now. Here we go.
Theo Vaughn. This is Kenneth from Las Vegas, Nevada.
What's up, Kenneth? Calling in from Las Vegas. That's a Sin City, and you sound young. And who knows how old you'll actually be able to get growing up there in Sin. Let's go more.
I'm in the United States Air Force.
Thank you for your service.
I just wanted to know your thoughts on gambling. I'm down a couple hundred. Want to know, should I keep doing it? Is it something bad that I'm in? But man, let me tell you, I think I should. I want to hit the big money. I want to hit it not just for me, but for everybody. I want to get your opinion on the dark arts of gambling.
Well, first of all, Kenneth, thanks. Second of all, you said should I? You're down a couple hundred. Should I? And then I love the fact that you immediately think you should. That's obvious. You're obviously at the casino right now and have ducked off to the side to make the call. And look, man, gambling's fun. Dude, gambling is fun. I remember I was at the casino playing craps one time in New Orleans, and I won, I think, probably about $1,100, and I bought bathing suits for everybody at the craps table. Everybody got a bathing suit. You know, and a buddy of mine, another time, bought a clothing iron for everybody. Everybody at the table got an iron. So there's a lot of good opportunities in casinos. But you said, this is my favorite part of your call right here. Let's hear it.
Something bad that I'm in. But man, let me tell you, I think I should. I want to hit the big money. I want to hit it not just for me, but for everybody.
Yeah, that's a cool excuse. I want to hit the big money not just for me, but for everybody. For who? For America? For who? Who are you talking about? Everybody? Most people are probably asleep. It sounded like this was at the middle of the night. You know, gambling, look, if you can have fun with it, that's fine. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you have to go gamble again, it might be an issue. You know, I think you just have to look at your own track record. Only you know if you got a problem. But gambling can be risky, man. I'll tell you this gambling story. I saw a dude one time at a party, right? And he bet this hot girl, this hot chick. He bet her. He said, if I let your friend, the hot chick's friend was a man, and he was a gay male. He said, if I let your friend give me a blowjob, will you have sex with me? And the girl said, yes. If you let my friend give you a blowjob, I'll have sex with you. So then the dude lets the gay guy give him a blowjob. Then the girl bails out of the fucking deal. So, I mean, that's what you get for gambling, you know? What are you going to do? You know, you placed your bet, and I'm not going to say you lost. I mean, you got a blowjob out of it. That's what the guy got, but not from who he wanted. So it's just risky. Gambling's risky, man. So if you want to gamble, you go on, but you be careful. That's all I'm saying. We got another call that came in here, and this is from Ben. He wants to know, it's about a stalker. Let's hear it.
Yo, Theo, what's up, man? My name is Ben, and I got a little bit of a situation here. This girl, I've been seeing her for a while now, and she's cool. We got this thing going on. We're doing our thing. It's not like exclusive or nothing, but we get down and all that.
Okay, gang, man, you got that. Let's hear more.
We've been going out for probably 8 months now, something like that.
That's pretty crispy, dude. 8 months, bruh. You know what I'm saying? That's real stuff. In some places, that's a marriage. If you guys die in a month, that's, well, it doesn't really pertain to it, but still, 8 months is a long time. Let's hear more.
And she recently told me that she's got a little bit of a stalking situation. And not exactly a little bit, because the dude is literally, like, outside her door every day. Like, she wakes up, and he is just there.
She wakes up, and he's just there? And he's not a roommate, huh? Let's hear more.
It's kind of awkward, because we all kind of go to the same school, and he's in one of her classes, and apparently this has been going on for, like, 9 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she tried to, like, switch up her routes last year and all that, and he still somehow found a way to find her. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Hey, stalker's gonna stalk, you know? I mean, if he's obviously good at what he does, you have to respect that a little bit. You don't want one of these weak-ass stalkers that's kind of, well, maybe you do want a weak-ass stalker. Let's hear more
about it. And I guess she thought she could handle it on her own, and then she finally came to me, should I fuck this dude up, or, I don't really want to start a fight because I don't want to get in trouble with the school.
Right, you don't want to get in trouble with the school, and I'm cutting that call there. But look, you got a stalker, a couple ways to go about it. If you fight a stalker, it's just going to, he's obviously a sick guy. There's something wrong there. So maybe even having a conversation with him, maybe saying, look, guy, what's going on? I'm not angry at you. I don't think you're a bad person, but this is what's going on. It makes me, this is how it plays to us, and it makes us feel uncomfortable. I'm trying to have a relationship with this girl, and you're trying to fucking, hang out in the garden and looking through the windows, and we're not working conducively together. So maybe just being real with him about it, talking about it like that. Now, if he continues to escalate, now you said your girl might want to fight him. That's probably a better way to go than by you slipping in and fighting him. So at least that way, it's her. Because these days, if, a woman can beat up a stalker, and that's nothing. That's like, nothing's going to happen to anybody, not to her. I mean, it's carte blanche on stalkers right now. Every stalker's getting their ass whipped by, a lot of women are kickboxing and everything just to beat up stalkers. So if you even used to stalk and don't anymore and have moved on from it and even started your own family, women are going to track you down probably and beat your ass now because they can. It's that time. Time's up for stalkers. So I would talk to the guy, and then if it still escalates, I would have your chick fight him. That's what I would do. Appreciate you calling, though. Let's hit this call right here. Here we go.
Hey, yo, Theo, man. This is Mickey calling from Seattle. So here's my situation, man. I'm 30 years old.
Thanks for calling in, Mickey from Seattle. And I will actually be up in Seattle or Tacoma in a couple of weeks. Next month, I think. Onward.
And I'm currently at the end stage of a lung disease. Now, my current lungs don't have very long left, probably about 2.5 years. Hopefully, we can stretch them out. But the silver lining is that I'm going to be soon on the lung transplant list. I'm hoping. I'm going to get listed.
Wow, man! Congratulations on that. So you got 2.5 years left on these ballast tanks you got in you now. And then you're going to get on the transplant list. That's beautiful. When I was young, my sister was born with like a rare disease called biliary atresia, and she got a liver transplant when I was 14. But I remember being young, and we spent a lot of time filling out these envelopes and mailing them off to strangers to get them to donate money to get that liver, because you got to get that liver. And I remember getting pissed even because there'd be shit I didn't get shit for Christmas or whatever, and I'd be pissed. And my sister was going to get a liver, and I wasn't getting some fucking new BK Nights or some type of bullshit or some socks or whatever. Onward.
Which will give me a few more years to figure this whole thing out. And it's been a really difficult time, and I've been single through it. My question to you, man, is during this difficult time that's really ruined my confidence, I wanted to ask you and the viewers what they think. What are some good steps that I can take to start boosting my confidence and my self-worth to be able to start getting back out there and start talking to girls again?
Damn, boy. Freaking no-lung Mickey out there in the universe. He got a couple years left on them lungs, and he trying to inhale a little bit of love into his life, it sounds like. Man, that's brave, That's ballsy. Because a lot of people, they got a couple years left, they could, and it sounds to me, it's obvious you're looking for a little bit of love, a little bit of that aorta pump, You're trying to get that hitter up in your systole and diastole. Because if you're looking for sex, you can get sex. You go to Backpage.com, you go to Eros.net, you go to FreeSalmon.net and get sex if you want it. But obviously you're looking for love. So that's, what, maybe we leave, look, guys, if you have advice for Tom, this dude's got 2.5 years left on his lungs. And I'm guessing if you don't get new lungs, it's a breather's ball game out here in the universe. And I'm not trying to be cold to you, but you probably know it better than anybody, Tomcat. Or Mickey. Sorry, I don't know why I called you Tomcat. Because I wasn't paying attention to my own thoughts. But Mickey, it's a breather's game out here. And if you ain't breathing, you out. And I hope that doesn't happen for you, man. And what I would like to do is, I'd like to ask our callers if you have advice. Mickey's got a couple years left, he's got them terminal lungs. Dude's got, he got them, he's coming in light in the lungs. And what do you suggest for him? How do you meet a lady? Some girls might think it's cool. You're not even going to be around for a long time, damn, that's dark. I'm sorry. I guess I'm feeling kind of maybe a little bit dark, but that might be a good pickup strategy, Hey, guess what? You only got to date me for a couple years, maybe lay down some money on your life insurance and, hit a lady up that way. It's a dark take, but I think these days, if a woman has a sense of humor, she'll like that. Because women want that rescue, and you got that rescue right now. You have that rescue that's all over you. Women want that, they want that man on that transplant list. They want that man who's, maybe is on having a kidney issue or something, has been in a fire or something. Women are intrigued by that. They want that rescue. It's in their blood to want to help. So I think you're going to have that going for you. But how do you boost that confidence? Yeah, that's wild. That's really, really wild. But I think it probably comes back to how do we all boost our confidence? And part of it is just, I don't know if maybe some women have let you down or made you feel bad because of this issue. But if they have, man, you got to get back on there and just keep trying. It's just like last week when I didn't even know if I wanted to, I couldn't do it, but I just, came back this week. I had to freaking strap my lungs back in, get back into the studio. But I can say this, man, I'm going to be up in Seattle, up in your area, in Tacoma. Let me look and see when I am. Maybe we can find you a date. What about that? That's a good idea. I'll be up there in March 15th and 16th. I'll be in Tacoma at the Comedy Club. So, ladies, if there's anybody that lives in Seattle, or if you're a man and you have a friend that live out there that might be interested in meeting a guy like Tom, that ticking Tom bomb, because that dude only got so much time. Oh, it's not even Tom. His name's fucking Mickey. Damn. Fuck, dude. Sorry, bro. Well, look, bro. Who cares what your name is, dude? You know what I'm saying? It's not about your name. It's about, that you have bad lungs and that this is, what are you going to do? And I'm going to try to boost your confidence a little bit by saying, let's catch up when I'm out there in Tacoma and let's get you a date. That's fucking tricky Mickey, dude. He's got them tricky airbags inside of him. He's got 2.5 years left on his lungs. He's got them leased lungs. And I had a bad lease on a car a couple years back. And it's not the same thing, but, I only got so many miles. I got 4,000 miles a year on a lease. And Jesus, it was miserable. I remember pushing. Sometimes I would have to push my car to get to where I was going to not have that odometer rack up, and because it's expensive. But yeah, let's see if you have any ideas for Tom for boosting his confidence when he's under the gun of physical impairments. I know we got a boy down there in Alabama who doesn't have a leg, and he stays confident. And I'd love to see maybe what his thoughts are if he doesn't mind hitting the hotline again. If you have an impairment and you deal with the confidence, but you got some ideas for my boy, why don't you hit us up and let us know, and we'll see if we can't help him out. That's exactly what I'm thinking right there. Let's take this one last call right here, and this is from Tom. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. It's your boy Tom from rural North Carolina. I've been kind of dabbling in the dark arts recently.
And this dark artist, Tom, from rural North Carolina, and I do remember you, Tom, early caller from the beginning of the show. Thank you.
I've been talking to this chick online, super cool, but she's got a boyfriend. And I'm a single guy, so there's nothing wrong with me, but the amount of time she spends texting me and talking to me and Snapchatting me, and it's nothing like, it's a little flirty, but it's nothing like sexual, it's nothing super promiscuous. I think if her boyfriend saw the stuff, I don't think he'd be thrilled. I don't know what I'm doing is right. Like, I really like the girl a lot. I think she really likes me a lot, a little bit more than just casual friends. She's not happy with her current boyfriend, but she's not necessarily looking to leave, and am I doing the right thing with doing this? And if she's doing it to this guy, will she turn around and do it to me later? Or I kind of feel shitty doing this to this dude.
Okay, so you're texting a guy's girlfriend. I'm going to tell you, here's what I'll say. If you get murdered by this guy, a lot of people aren't going to feel that sorry for you. It's risky. You're fulfilling a need, but you're not, you're not standing up for yourself. If it's just risky, man. You don't know that dude. You don't know what he's into. You don't know how much he might have anger towards her. He'll take that out on you if he finds out. It's risky. It's risky, dude. So I don't know what to tell you, but I think you probably know what to tell yourself. If you texting some man's girlfriend, Just even saying that, sound it out. I'm texting some man's girlfriend. If that dude shows up and wants to bake me a brisket made out of my own ass, I can't be surprised, dude, when that dude warms my ass up with his fists. When that dude beats my ass. So be safe out there, Tom. That's all I can tell you, bro. Because it's dangerous. This ain't no game. That's like little Kenneth out there gambling. Out there down 200 wanting to win money for America. You know? When people's out here getting blowjobs from, people of the same sex when that's not what they planned on. The dark arts abound.
Crash, I better crash in Cancun, maybe Curacao, Brazil. I could do a plane crash from Brazil, a chow. But yeah, if I crashed in the Arctic, dude, I would perish, bro. I would perish, In fact, I might start packing a little headstone in my travel bag. That's not a bad idea. That wouldn't be bad for an airport gift shop item. Get you a little headstone that would survive any type of predicament, crash, drown, light fire, because it's going to be expensive to get one that can really survive a heavy fire. Extremely flame retardant stuff is pretty expensive. So, but yeah, get you something that can survive some light catastrophe, and get your little headstone shop. Because some people that's all you want. You just want to make it easy on your loved ones when you pass away. Some of us, that's our only. We don't want to cause too much of a ruckus. We just want to make it easy. That way, you're right there. You crash, somebody survives, or they find you. Boom, pop the headstone out of it. I'm sure it comes in like a special little case. Just headstones to go, maybe. Like a little duffel. Maybe it comes in a duffel, and you just plop it in the ground right there. Here lies your boy. You could fill it in. It's kind of like a Mad Libs headstone. So that way, you get a realistic epitaph. You get a realistic epitaph. Here lies, fill in the blank. He was survived by blank. That way, if you got some children, wife, cats, karma, if you got bad karma looking for you, because don't think when you die that your karma is still out there. And that's another thing people aren't thinking about when they die. If you're leaving bad karma, then that shit is swirling. It's going to get somebody It's going to get your friend, your nephew, animals you might have, others. It's going to get somebody. What's going on, baby boy, huh? You little muffin sniffing gypsies, huh? You guys good, huh? Huh? You staying off that dust, huh? That's what I'm hoping for. Let me check my levels. Okay, we got audio. We're pretty good here. I'm in Virginia Beach, man. If you haven't been here, it's a cool place. A lot of military. Tonight we had Lesbians Get In free night at the comedy. At the Funny Bone Comedy Club here in Virginia Beach. I want to thank everybody that came out, man. It was some great shows. Beautiful audiences. Just good-natured people. I mean, just good-natured, people that just know how to hug. People that know how to hug. That's what they should have, a damn test. They're banning people, or they're keeping people out of the country. Just give a damn hug test. You want some border security? You put a breasty, a girthy, just thick in the cardiovascular area, urban woman or grandparent, white lady too, out there by the border, and you have them hug whoever's coming in. Because if you want a crystal ball of people's feelings, you hug a sweet, thick sister, huh? You hug one of them big little cinnamon bears, and they will know. They will know if you are a good person or not. They know where your heart is at. Because a thick sister, she, a Rubenesque, just chesty, just, el torsa, the chest. Those women, they are just an emotional crystal ball. They crystal ball till you fall, dude. They can predict what's going on. Because sometimes you hug somebody and you're like, this motherfucker is squirrely, He don't have anything in his rib cage. He don't have anything within his bones. There's no bone density. There's no trust in this person. There's no honor. There's no commitment. There's no loyalty. So I think that would help. That would be something good for the border, man, or any border, anywhere. We just, it'd be good. Anyway, what are we talking about? Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, yeah, great audiences this week. Great audiences, man. Just fun. And we had Lesbians come in free Sunday night. That's my new thing. So if you are in any of these upcoming cities, actually, I'll drop these dates on you right now. February 2nd through the 5th. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Next weekend, this weekend actually, I'll be in Schaumburg, Illinois. It's outside of Chicago, at the Chicago Improv. The following weekend, I'll be in Baltimore, or Timonium, Maryland, at Magooby's Comedy Club. Never been there. And the weekend after that, I'll be in La Jolla. That is February 17th and 18th, La Jolla, California. And the weekend after that, I'll be February 22nd through 26th. I'll be in Denver at the Comedy Works South. Comedy Works South. So if you want to come out, come on out. Those are the dates. But yeah, fuck. Dang, what was I talking about, man? What was I talking about? I don't know. See, that's the problem. I got to get a sidekick. Look, I know a lot of people are like, when you going to get a sidekick? Your sidekick game is weak. I know I got to get a sidekick. I'm considering, we just got to see what'll happen. It's hard, man, It's hard. Things are tough. But onward. So I'm in Virginia Beach. Great shows. Beautiful people came out. Oh, I was saying, so if you are in one of those cities I just mentioned, and you're a lesbian, a lady that loves the attention of, the heartfelt attention and emotional and sensual attention of other women, then Sunday night, you get in free to my show. The password is LOLGBT. You can use that to get in. Lick City. Some people want to drop Lick City as the alternate if you want to be fun. That's another. So those are the passwords to get in. Tell your lesbian friends. Lesbians come out. Because my father... And people say, well, Theo, what do what's the cause? Why you want extra lesbians at the show? Why are you reaching out to lesbians? And I'll tell you this, my father, I didn't know my father very well. My father, I talked about this before, was very old. My father was born in 1910. He was a missionary from Nicaragua. I'm Polish Nicaraguan. One of the few, maybe the last, bruh. The last Polish Nicaraguan, bruh. Where my po nicks. And he always told me I had the heart of a lesbian. My father always told me that when I was young. He said I was a survivor and that I had the heart of a lesbian. And that always resonated with me, man. And I always would resonate. I felt this reverb coming off of lesbians that I met. One time I called, my mother won a perm on the radio once. She did. She won a perm on the radio once. She won it outright. So there was some contention, but she won it outright. And a couple beautiful lesbians brought that furniture. She won a perm. So then they had this commercial on television for this man, Big Charlie. He was selling chairs. Big Charlie's chairs. You already knew that. Big Charlie's chairs. He's selling chairs, seat areas, places you could put your, lower half of your body if you don't want to stand up. You get the drill. You know what they are. Just like individual benches. So Big Charlie, after my mom won that perm, she got that perm, boy. And I mean, huh? I don't know if you remember the first time you saw, and we didn't think we could get a perm. Like, perm was for people that had them a little bit of money. Okay, we got some money popping, you know. We got some dineros in the accounteros, you know. So we didn't think we could get a perm. So when my mom won that perm, we're fired up. You know, we're keyed up on happiness, you know. I mean, when she got home with that perm, boy, it looked like somebody just deep fried my mother. Just deep fried my mother's head for about 9 seconds. Beautiful, just, that hang time, just no hang time coming off the back, just tight. Just tight. That thing, boy, just, you could lick the bottom of that perm and cut your tongue. That's how clean it was. Now, at the time, they had a commercial on television for Big Charlie's chairs. This man, Big Charlie, selling, you already know it, furniture, man. I told you that. So I called up Big Charlie because they said on the furniture, on the commercial, that he would bring the chair to your home and show you how comfortable the chair was. So I ring-a-ling-a-ling, Big Charlie. Somebody answered, I think maybe a Vietnamese lady or something, or maybe somebody, and they said Big Charlie would be there 4 to 6 weeks to show you that chair. But my goal was to actually set Big Charlie up with my mother. Because Big Charlie seemed like a hard worker. This man on the commercial, my mother's a hard worker. You know, delivered newspapers since I was born. So I'm figuring I'm going to set them up. So I called Big Charlie. Somebody answers the phone. They said, Big Charlie be there 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Anyway, fast forward a few weeks. My sister yells up, somebody's at the door. I come running down. Open the door. No NBC, baby. No Big Charlie. But 2 adult lesbians standing right there. Beautiful ladies. And I remember just right when I looked at this, the more jacked one, you know, the daddy, the bull, or whatever, you know, whatever they call him, the hero, you know, the big spoon, or whatever the terminology is, you know. The one who kind of looked like she probably had like a, like her clitoris, like her clitoris would be in a neck brace. You know what I'm saying, bro? You know what I'm saying? The kind of girl who vagina know how to thumb wrestle. You know what I'm saying? She and I locked eyes with that woman. Because Big Charlie didn't come to show the furniture. That was a ruse. You know, that was a snake oil salesman. They were bullshitting you. Big Charlie wasn't going to show up. And I didn't know that at the time. You know, I still believed in big business, you know. But what had happened was, me and this lesbian lady, we locked eyes. They came to show the furniture. And I just knew from that moment on, I think kind of what my father was talking about, that I had the heart of a lesbian, that I had that vigor in me, you know, that vigor that at certain times in my life I was going to be against odds, and that I was going to survive, and I was going to, you know, that life was going to be a hustle, and I was going to be emotional, and I was going to be confused but caring, and just all those things, man. So, and then now, ironically, I got this adult haircut where a lot of lesbians, because I have an adult haircut now, a lot of lesbians will approach me about this haircut, because I got this solid, you know, I got that Lord's favor in the back. You can see it if you're on YouTube. You can check out the YouTube channel and see this, because I record straight onto the video on YouTube for at least half of the show, because the file gets too big. But you can see I got that little bit of the Lord's favor coming off the back of this new hairstyle. Anyhow, so what were we talking about, dude? I'm in Virginia Beach. Beautiful night. I want to thank the lovely ladies that came out. I want to thank everybody that came out. Gay, straight, confused, out there, pets, pet owner only, no human emotions. Everybody that came out, you know. Everybody's always welcome in my walk of life. And we had all types of people, man, and it was great, dude. Very diverse city here. Very diverse city. What else, dude? Last time I was here, so I told this story on stage. Last time I was in Virginia Beach, dude. And it's a great black-white area. If you want to see black and white people, because there's a lot of places where a lot of black and white people still don't get along well, or there's just not a ton of mixing and I don't want to say integration because legally there is, but to be honest, you go to a lot of cities, then black people hang out here, white people hang out here, it's starting to get a lot more diverse in places. But like Atlanta's the future city of you see a lot of black wealth, and it's amazing, you see like a lot of it's a city that's been exemplary in my lifetime of progress for sure. But you also see that here. You see a lot of just interracial getting along, and it's good to see with all of the media constantly telling us that nobody can get, like showing all these fights and people and all this bullshit. It's great to see that there are cities out there and environments where if you just go and you put your heartbeat out there, then it's going to reverb off of some other people's. You're going to see what's going on. You throw your eyes over on somebody. If you just put your sight in your hand and just hum it in some direction into a new place, then you can see, you'll see. And this is one of those places, man, here in Virginia Beach. So very diverse. We had some great crowds came out. So last time I'm here, I'm driving by this McDonald's, right? They had a snowstorm last time I was here. And I'm, like I was saying in the beginning, like if I'm in a plane crash, dude, I'm not going to survive in the snow, I'm going to have to crash at a beach. I'm going to have to crash at a resort, okay? Like if we're crashing, I'm going to be like, can we crash by the Club Med? Hey. That's coffee I'm drinking, baby. That's that, baby. That's that just brackish. That's that brackish caffeine. Daddy's trying to get that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to pet my insides. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to pet my insides with some energy. That's why I'm on that coffee. So anyhow, onward. We had, I wouldn't survive in the elements, like if I was in, like that movie Alive, they have that movie Alive where you have to eat somebody when the plane crashes. I'd be the one you'd probably get eaten. And if I had to eat somebody, I might have talked about this before, but I would have Vietnamese person. I know that, I think I mentioned before that I don't think I could be a cannibal, but I was at a Best Buy once and I considered eating a Vietnamese man. Beautiful little man. Beautiful, Thumb, maybe might have been his name. Like, like a 2 or your 10, Thumb. But without the B, Thum. Anyhow, so last time I'm here in Virginia Beach, I'm at a stoplight. Brother gets in my car, man. An adult brother, gets into the back seat of my car, right, and goes, "Where are we going, dude?" And let me tell you, I said, "Wherever you want to go." That's what I said, man. And I could tell in his voice, he didn't seem like, it was freezing outside. So he didn't seem like he was, up for any trouble or anything like that. But then he's like, okay. And he just rattled off a place in an area over in Portsmouth. And I drove him over there. And that's just a close area here to where I am near Virginia Beach. But that's called suddenly Uber. That's when you are suddenly Uber. And if you don't think you could Uber drive, wait till somebody gets in the back of your car and just says, "Where are we going?" Look, you will drive them where they want to go. So suddenly Uber, man. Suddenly Uber. That's the new thing. I guess it was last time I was here. Oh, man. What else? I'm tired, dude. I'm so tired. I can't even tell you. What are y'all doing today? Y'all going to work? What are you guys up to? What are you guys up to? Let me think about what your life might be right now. You probably, maybe you're heading to work. It's Monday. Maybe you're an electrician, That's brave, dude. What? I'm going to take a chance at getting electrocuted every day? just so people could have cable and their blenders can work and shit. That's ballsy, dude. That is ballsy. Plumber, that's another gangster job, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Straight up just showing up and just being a shit jacker by somebody else's house, dude. That's crazy, right? That's ballsy, man. Think of some other jobs. Tree climber. My brother used to climb trees. He did. He climbed trees for a while, and he cut, dude, he had a chainsaw. He was up in a tree, and he sawed right into I'm going to give you a chance to guess it. He sawed into a 3, 2, 1 beehive. And he was like in one of those climbing things where you just kind of like scoot up the thing with like a big rubber band, kind of like you used to see on the cartoons, because they still do that. It's probably about 9 years ago. And he sawed into a beehive inside of the tree. It was one of those interior ones, like one of the mansions. You know, just like a damn little honey mansion, you know? Just that straight up, that nectar vector, bruh. So he sawed into one, and then had to, like, through the chainsaw, bees attacking him, and just said he was running through people's backyards until I think he either jumped in a swimming pool or ran into somebody's house. But that's some G shit, bruh. So that's how my brother can handle stuff really well these days. He's very good at handling, you know, the bees that life throws at him, you know, in a weird way. He would be like a good mission control in a beehive. Which I don't know if that's a real thing, but like, you know, the person who's like, okay, we need this bee coming in here and this bee coming in here and this bee. My brother's good at that kind of stuff, just thinking clearly, making decisions pretty quick. Anyhow, man, what the fuck am I even talking about, dude? God, I don't know. I'll give you a sensual report. Still staying off the pornography. Let me check my app. I got an app on my phone that tell me when the last time I looked at any pornography was. Had an instance this weekend, though. This girl, not my type of gal. She wasn't my type. She's like threatened to give me a blowjob. Like literally follow me to my hotel and then threaten to give me a blowjob, dude. Who does that? She's like, oh, you don't think I'll suck your dick? And I'm like, what? I'm just hoping you won't. 54 days I just saw. Boom. 54 days off of pornography. 54 days off of pornography. I'm 2 days clear on masturbation for now. So, you know, got a little lonely in these hotel rooms. You get a little lonesome. So I was just really monitoring myself, you know, basically just being sensual. I had some sensual thoughts, and I just acted on them. You know, so I'm acting on my own sensual thoughts. But yeah, defend that girl. Who threatens to blow somebody? Oh, really? Oh, fine, then I'll suck your dick. Like, come on, lady. Like, you know. So that was, you know, I had to say, you know, obviously no. I was like, no, but I had to, I mean, this lady was just an aggressive 5.5, you know, and not that that really matters, the looks of it, but there was just no attraction. I don't like somebody threatening to suck my dick. It's dangerous, dude. You know? You want to discuss it? You want to draw a picture and be like yes or no, like a picture of a mouth and like maybe a sketch of what you think my penis might look like, and then put a check yes or no box? That's a possibility, you know? But when you're just threatening to blow somebody, okay? I'm not going to put my penis into somebody's mouth that I barely know who's been threatening me with that same mouth. That's crazy, dude. That's like my brother climbing back up that tree, knowing the bees are there, and just cutting right back in. That's crazy. What else, man? The sensuality. The other time I got really offered some heavy sensuality, well, I'll tell you this. One time I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, beautiful place. I caught pink eye in Pittsburgh numerous occasions. So they had a couple hot strands going around there, and you know, this was probably late 2000s, early 2010s. They had a couple of hot strands of conjunctivitis in the area, and I caught some. But these two ladies had come from Wheeling, West Virginia, down from the hills, to my comedy show in Pittsburgh. And afterwards, this lady and this girl is, like a not young girl, but like, legal age young lady. And it was a girl and her aunt. That's who it was. I'm trying to explain their dynamic. I'm so tired. A girl and her aunt, they offered to be sensual with me in this car, dude. I think it was a Capri. Who makes a Capri? Let me look that up really quick. Capri vehicle. I think that was a Mercury Capri. Yeah, that was it, dude. Ooh, they're nice, huh? Yeah, this one wasn't that nice. Not as nice as, you can't see the one I'm looking at online. But anyway, yeah, they said, you want to come and get some of this, And I didn't want it. And I was just trying to pretend like I was blinking a lot. But just, I think when I was going through one of those fits of pink eye. And they're like, you should come get some of this wheeling feeling. That's what they said, man. That wheeling feeling, And that was... first of all, the wheeling feeling seems incestual out of the gate because y'all are related. These people they're family members. These people are family members, dude. So I don't want to be that liaison between an aunt and a niece. You know what I'm saying? Like that job is for other family members who are supposed to be doing that genetically. I'm not supposed to be sensually connecting the dots here. That's outside. That's going outside the realm of genetics. I'm not supposed to be that middleman for y'all. They're supposed to be, a sister and a spouse or something. You know how it works. Family tree. Anyway, that was another time I got offered some sensuality. Oh, God, what else, man? I'm trying to think about another time I got offered some. Now I'll tell you this story, man, and I'm gonna get going because it's daytime. I'm gonna try to get like 45 minutes sleep before I gotta be at the airport because there's a bunch of protesting going on, so I'm concerned about that. I get protesting. That's an American right. Protest all you want. Doing it at the airport, today it's making me upset. Maybe I'm being selfish, but I just want to get back to my bed. But then there's probably people that want to get back to their beds too, and they can't. Maybe they can't. I don't know what. I don't know enough about it really to comment on it, but I'm just hoping that I get home okay. What was I going to talk about? God. I feel like I got a mouse in my head, dude. Sometimes I really think I have like a mouse in my head that just right when I have a thought, the mouse runs over to that area where the thought is and eats that thought, bro. That's crazy, isn't it? That's irrational. That's irrational. I got high at this party. This is the first time I think I ever got high on marijuana. I was a youngster. And I'd gone with my brother who doesn't imbibe in drugs anymore. He's an adult now. Beautiful family. He's a beautiful brother. But at the time, we were children. He was maybe 15 and I was 13. He took me to a party out there in rural Illinois. Because my mother's from just outside of Kewanee, Illinois. And that's a small town. She's from outside of there, from Stark County, Illinois. So my brother took me to this party out in the cornfields, and people was out there, and they were doing, just smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. And what else? Just doing, when you're that age, you smoke whatever. You smoke your fucking thumb, bro, if somebody could put it in a pipe. So, you'll smoke your sister's hair, If you cut off a couple grams of it while she's sleeping, you'll cook up a little bit, you'll cook up a fucking young lady's braid, I'll smoke a braid, bro. I'll smoke a braid. So, I get high with these people out in this cornfield, and there's a party, and people are drinking. It's just like the party you would always think about, like in a cornfield. There's like a tractor in the distance, and there's just people just drunk and just being dumb and just being young. Well, all night I thought it was kind of wild if I went over and urinated. They had a man who parked a car, a Ford Escort, And I always loved a Ford Escort, man. We had a few Escorts in our family. You know, my mother came in with some money once and bought an Escort, and my first car was actually a Ford Escort years later. No front passenger seat in my car. They said they were going to give it to me later. They never sent it after I bought the car used for $800, and they were supposed to send that seat. So my car was, if you got in the front passenger seat, you just had to walk through to the back seat. But anyway, so all night I keep sneaking over to this Ford Escort, and I was urinating into the back seat. I just opened the door and just urinating in this dude's back seat, man. And I'm not proud of it. I was just, being young and dumb. And so all night, man, I was drinking beers, and I was young. I could drink a lot of beers and just drank them and just urinate them out. I was just basically a conduit for this liqueur, this beverage. So I'm urinating in this back seat all night. Well, eventually some people, everybody started leaving the party or whatever, and I needed a ride home, and everybody else had already loaded up. And the only person who offered to take me home, this dude didn't know I'd been urinating in his back seat all this whole time. The only dude who offered to take me home was that dude. And somebody called shotgun. So here I am, riding in a just soaked back seat, man. Just a urinated, just bench, just a cushiony bench in the back of a car. You know what a back seat is. And here I am, dude, and that was just a crazy time. So that was a little bit of that wheeling feeling, I guess, when you're riding in your own urine, That's probably similar to, being in a threesome with your aunt. That's that wheeling feeling, I bet. But I didn't want it. I didn't want it in Pittsburgh. I didn't get it, and I guess that's karma right there. That's piss karma, bro. That's piss karma. So you know that. What else, man? That's about it, dude. I just want to thank everybody who's supporting the podcast. If you have any ideas or thoughts on how to make it better, let me know. Look, I don't know what I'm doing, okay? I'll be honest, I didn't even want to get up right now and do this, dude. I didn't want to. But you guys have been supportive, man. People have been, chiming in and saying if they like this or don't like this. I'm trying not to talk politics. Sometimes it's hard. It's a riveting time. I'm trying to see things from other people's perspective. I'm just trying, man. That's a personal update if you want that. I'm trying to be a decent person, man. It's hard. It's hard. I want to be selfish. I want to, get caught up in my feelings. My brain gets angry at me. I get negative thoughts. I feel low self-worth. I feel less than, and I'm battling those things every day. But I'm trying, man, I just try and take action. That's my big thing right now. If I get caught thinking negatively, I get moving. Move my feet. Get out the bed, You'll find you a little, water a plant. Phone a friend, Listen to some music, to the Beach Boys. Maybe listen to the Beach Boys or some Nelly. Get your heart going. Call somebody. Tell them you love them. Draw a picture of something. Draw a picture of something you can draw decently. Don't sit there trying to draw something you can't fucking draw. That will depress you, dude. I can draw roosters. I can draw the front of cars. Those are two things I'm pretty good at drawing. And what else? That's about it. I think so. I'll have to look back through some of my old art books, but it's mostly just pictures of those two things. All right, man. So that's it, dude. Those are the upcoming dates. You know that. We got next week. I'll be outside of Chicago, Schaumburg Improv. Then I'll be in Baltimore at Magoobies, and then I'll be at the La Jolla Comedy Store in La Jolla, and then I'll be at Comedy Works Denver. You can get some bruh shirts if you like the bruh shirts, man. I got some cool new stuff coming out. I got a new album that's popping out really soon. Just can't really bring it up too much yet, so I'm excited about that. And I just want to thank my boy Joey Coco Diaz for being so supportive. I want to give congratulations to Coco's the best, man. I got to say that. The dude calls me, and I talked to him the other day. I told him I wasn't feeling very well, and he gave me a call the next day just to check on me, It's just nice. You don't see a lot of that in this business, A lot of people out for themselves in this Hollywood business. Don't believe all the hype. You see these people all romanticizing each other on television. But the truth is, they're only romantic when they're all in the same financial bed, you know. So outside of the sheets, people fending for themselves mostly. But it was nice to see Joey Diaz give me a nice call. Frank Castillo, there's a show on television called The Roast Battle. Frank Castillo won it. Young comedian, really great. And if you are traveling, dude, out to Los Angeles, stop into the world famous Comedy Store. That place, man, it rocks, dude. It really, really, really rocks. So that's it, man. I'm Theo Von. You can follow me anywhere at Theo Von, TheoVon. If you want to grab some dope underwear, they're not a sponsor of mine, but I wear them all the time. They're a sponsor of my other podcast, Allegedly. That's a Hollywood podcast. It's MeUndies. MeUndies.com/Theo, Theo. They got beautiful drawers, bro. See if I got any on right now. I do, actually. Look at these, bro. Camo for your whammo. Camo for your whammo. So anyway, you can get those, man. 20% off. Good deal right there. Anyhow, man, I love you guys. Have a good week, you know. And I'm going to try to keep my spirits up. Why don't you do the same? Let's meet back here next week. And if you have any thoughts or feelings, man, let me know. Anything you want me to answer or talk about, hit me up. I didn't get any requests this week, but that's okay. I got some support by you guys listening. So have a great Monday, man. Hug somebody. Call your mother. Tell her you love her, even if you don't. Just pretend for the day and see if that love grows a little bit. So next time you might actually even maybe you love her a little bit more. You know, do your best. You know, call your sister, dude. Everybody's sister needs a hug, needs a call, man. You guys be good, man. This past